We're back again. We're back. It's time. We're back. It's Tuesday. It's the 4th of August, 2026, 12 on the dot. Boy, do we have a show to you.
We have an absolute roarer.
We've also got a new outfit.
Well, I thought, Hugo Spritz Day, biggest day of the year.
Biggest day of the year.
Let me get the green shirt on in memory and in respect to the Hugo Spritzes of the world.
Let's hear it for Hugo Spritz.
Indeed, let's hear it for Hugo Spritz.
Pandemonium on the timeline. A lot of news. First on the docket, Dario concerns. We've seen the Bending Spoons acquisition that came through this morning. They've just bought Airtable. They're on a tear, as always.
That is bonkers.
Incredible.
Insane.
Their portfolio is getting bigger and bigger by the day, and it's nice to watch that trend up. Aperol Spritz versus Hugo Spritz. The FT have reported that Aperol is down, Hugo is up.
Can we just appreciate the Aperol? The FT reported that.
And it's very important that the world knows.
I mean, it's why it's the globally best newspaper, The
goats are back at it again.
The goats.
So we're going to cover that, obviously. And then a little bit more about the AI talent wars. We saw Dario have some concerns around new hires coming into the company, that they're not in it for the mission, they're in it for the money. This took off. Our posted 2.2 million views. We saw Polymarket and a bunch of others come in, but this was originally reported on by Axios, and we'll share the original journalist who picked up the story. We're going to be covering that first, but first, let me tell you about the lineup today and who we've got onto the show. Bring up the Airwallex agenda. Opening up, we've got Tristam, Constant, CEO and co-founder at Agon. They just did a 30 million seed round. We're going to be talking around a bunch of different stuff within the defense area. We've got Kieran, founder and CEO at Ethyca. Kieran is joining us at 1:15, and they're going to be breaking down a bunch of different stuff. Why AI models are only at 50% of the success equation, the China open source debate, Anthropic and OpenAI hacks. Following that, we've got Hallas, Dom Hallas, the executive director at the Startup Coalition. He's actually coming in live into the arena. I did warm in how hot it is. I said a t-shirt would be fine. T-shirt at the maximum, I actually said. And then
Did you not say wear a shirt?
I didn't say wear a shirt. I didn't say wear a shirt.
Come and try and outdo us.
I think he's going to be kind of hot.
Come and try and outdo the shirt max.
Well, he did mog on the timeline, to be fair. Hallas coming in live into the arena. We had some good banter as well, back and forth on WhatsApp last night, as we always do with Dom.
For sure.
Following that, we've got a new Atluru, writer of Working Theories. Bunch of really interesting topics to cover with her. A bunch of stuff around new media. She has a belief that it is insider media. Should AI labs have a creative director? And then a bunch of stuff about CEOs doing the rounds. It's less popular. Well, it's still popular to go into traditional press, but you have to do these new media circuits now. If you are a CEO and you do have a profile on X, you are in the arena, you're in the conversation, you have to make sure you do that. And then following that, we have 245 Avi Schiffmann, founder and CEO at Friend. Avi has launched. He's launched Friend 2.0. We're going to talk about buying domains as a strategy, his viral Subway adverts, the future of AI, wearable companions, and then look into what is Friend 2.0. We've seen a few videos drop on the timeline. So it's going to be super interesting to get into it with him. But let's get into the news of the day.
Before we do that, Airwallex, leave our day-to-day business banking behind with Airwallex, the other one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all on one platform. Go to airwallex.com.
So good.
Indeed.
Good. Those guys always do a great job over there.
Let's dive into the tweet that we posted yesterday because there was some very interesting takes.
Article first. I think that we have to get up.
Let's do that.
Where did this come from? This was reported on from Axios by Madison Mills. I've actually reached out to Madison to try and get her on the show, and she has responded very positively. We're just trying to make timings work. Today wouldn't work. She's out in the US, so it would be a very early wake-up call. But books today. Hopefully, we can find some time later in the week to cover what is the story? What does it mean? Where did you get this information? Who are these people? Yeah. It's titled, "The AI Talent Wars Have a Loyalty Problem." Comes in as, just to start us off, top AI researchers continue to jump between leading AI labs as competition for elite talent intensifies. We've talked about it on the show before. What's going on behind closed doors? We see it less. I was quite happy to see this get put out there because it's telling me, hey, this is still going on. Poaching is still happening. Large salaries are still,
we said it kind of got diffused
affluent
into the articles a little bit, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't like headline news. It was like everyone's got desensitized. It's just kind of diffused
That's the
into.
thing, I didn't get desensitized. I want to hear this. I want to get this juice. I want to hear this news. Axios tells us why it matters. Hiring elite AI researchers.
It's interesting.
Why it matters. Hiring elite AI researchers is hard. Keeping them, even after offering enormous pay, prestigious titles, and vast computing resources, is proving almost as difficult. I'd like to reference as well, when DeepSeek were raising their original round, there was a reason for that raise put into the article that was reported on, and the CEO came out and said, we are raising this round to retain employees. It was the first time that I've ever seen a CEO sort of publicly endorse the fact that we need money to keep our employees in the business. The business is fine.
Yeah.
The business is making money. It's just not making enough.
Everyone else is,
making more.
Yeah.
And we need to retain our employees. We need to pay these guys huge packages to stay. And I thought it was incredibly interesting because I'd never seen someone.
Sorry, keep going.
I've never seen someone come out and say, like, this is why we need the money. The business is doing good. We're making money. Revenue's good. Against burn, that's all fine. But we're just not making enough money to retain the talent. And that's something very specific and unique to, I guess, Frontier Labs. Please.
And it's brought a bunch of kind of strategies on how people are hiring and not, and finding these people who are mission driven and then rewarding them, whether that's the strategy. There was a post about Elon Musk about that. Whether he does that or not, I don't know, but it sounds very Elon of him. And then kind of all the strategies of basically trying to keep people. I always thought Anthropic were the ones that were paying the most for salaries, but it sounds like maybe they're not, or they're getting a little bit annoyed, so they're now.
Well, I think they are.
Doing
I think
it.
they are, and that's what he's sad about. Is like these guys are just here for the money.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, bro, you're offering them like $2
Then
million plus pay packages.
Obviously, there were tweets saying, shock. People need
a lot of
people need money for a job.
Yeah. I saw a lot of breaking. Employees want to be paid. A lot of that sort of stuff, which is outrageous. Why aren't you just here for the mission? What do they say? They say between...
We're here for the mission. We get paid in Aperols.
Well, it's actually down Aperol right now. We'll get into that later. Between the lines, the churn reflects an unusual moment in which a small group of researchers can command extraordinary compensation while choosing among companies with different cultures, missions, and technical resources. They have to pick of the crop. It's the creme de la creme. They can do whatever they want. It's the power law for AI researchers.
They have the leverage.
And they say, zoom out. Frontier AI now resembles a single, tightly connected ecosystem rather than a collection of isolated rivals. We know that I'd seen a post the other day from Dario's chief of staff wrote about how internally, sometimes they refer to seeing God internally, their responsibility as people at the frontier. How do they manage this? How do they manage the development? Should we pace it? Should we push it? Is it their duty to unlock this higher intelligence? Is it their duty to manage it in a safe way and safeguard humanity? So she also goes on to say that they do talk. The researchers at labs, they all talk. There is constant dialogue going on. The walls aren't exactly up at that level that isn't quite executive. At the executive level, I can't imagine that Dario and Sam are, WhatsApping each other all the day. Like maybe not
them, but I reckon there's some.
Or
there's
Snapchatting
some
each other. Do you think the CEO of Snapchat, Snapchats his mates?
No.
I don't think.
I reckon he's trying to onboard them and say, "Hey guys, get on my cool app."
That's funny.
It's really dying in the public market.
Came into my head then. So they mention companies battle fiercely for talent and customers while simultaneously investing in one another, buying one another's services, relying on the same cloud providers, and hiring from the same pool of researchers. We've seen multiple people do circuits of AI labs. They go to one, they say that I want to solve intelligence, and then they go to another one, say the same thing.
They want to be safe, they want to be frontier, they want to...
They like Demis, but then they like a bit of Dario. Yeah. Sometimes Sama comes in with a few.
Choose your fighter.
Just pick a lane. Pick a lane, buddy. But with that said, I tweeted out the other day that this is the ultimate morality test. It's the ultimate test of character. It's almost like, in my thoughts, it's a Mr. Beast YouTube video playing out. It's like, are you going to go for the 100 million, or are you going to betray your morals and go for 200 million?
Mr. Beast should actually do a video with some AI researchers. That would do very, very well. And would get him into the tech scene, which is great. He could put a load of ad dollars behind it. Get OpenAI to sponsor it.
He's like, I put Sam Altman in a cage for an hour until he achieved AGI. That would probably do numbers. He does. We won't say who, but we were chatting to someone who'd worked with Mr. Beast in the past recently, and they mentioned what he does really well is he will jump on trends.
Yeah.
He'll jump on trends, he'll ride trends. He used to tell his team, like, I don't care how we ride this, but we're riding it. Figure out how.
There's a trend here. Mr. Beast, jump on it.
Yeah,
you got to do it.
Jump on, Mr. Beast.
Very weird because I posted basically the same tweet off that tweet. So I quote posted that tweet as well, but gave it a matrix similarity and said blue pill, red pill. You know, are you going for the money? Are you going for the kind of that side, the comfort side, or are you going for the mission, the hard, the grind? You know, it's that kind of.
But the funny thing about this is, it's not money or mission. I think my tweet was wrong. It's not money or mission.
Both.
It's money and mission or more money.
Yeah.
Which I think is even more of a morality test or a character test, right? Like, how much is your morality worth? Can you put a price on it? Is it, you know, an extra $1 a year? I thought it was quite fascinating, you know. I'm always saying, you know, go lock that bag. Like, go chase the bag.
Yeah.
I rate that. But mission is also important.
Well, we can pull a graph up that Zuahia Musa has tweeted, basically going through the seniorities of engineers and saying, hey, this is how much. Yeah.
There's a bunch more stuff that I do think we should go through with
we can go through that.
The article, if possible, because it's where we've pulled the information to start this fire, essentially.
Go for it.
So it goes on to basically inform us, like, what's driving the news. The latest high-profile move is Cillian Wang, co-founder of Mira Murati's Thinking Machines Lab. This broke the timeline. She initially said that she was feeling ill at Thinking Machines, and then announced a very short time later that she was joining OpenAI. The information reported that she was joining OpenAI to work on recursive self-improvement, the idea that AI systems could play a growing role in improving the future of AI generations. Wang is the fourth Thinking Machines co-founder to leave within the past year, suggesting that even well-funded startups can struggle to retain talent. Very similar to H Company. They broke headlines a while back, one of the largest European seed raises. I saw them at Raise. They had a booth there. Yeah. I didn't hang around. I should have actually test out the products because I've always been very bearish on those guys.
Should have brought intern Max to do some content.
Live report.
I haven't actually hired him yet, but
he hasn't joined us yet. But it's suggestive of, like, this is very common, right? Too many chefs at that level. You know, the perfect amount of co-founders, I think, has statistically been proven in parallel with success to be around 2, and then it's 3, and then it's 1, and then 4. I need to find out where that data has come from, but I know that's sort of like a known thing in the space. Yeah. But this is a hint towards, like, these things get messy. I think Thinking Machines has been probably one of the worst publicly to see the downfall. It's been heavily reported on. They've been bringing people in and they've been leaving very quickly. And I know that they were offering, like, huge signing bonuses as well. It goes on. It's not just Thinking Machines. Google lost a pair of their prominent researchers to rivals in June as Noam Shazir left for OpenAI, and Nobel Prize in Chemistry John Jumper went to Anthropic. We reported on that. Additionally, he's the fellow who can't start for another year because he has to do a year of gardening leave. So he's not actually officially working there right now, but he will be once that year has been served.
He's on a beach somewhere drinking Hugo Spritzes.
Yeah, he's chilling out. He's having a good time. And then also we see Meta has spent heavily to lure leading researchers over. They were heavily involved in the AI talent wars. I think that there was discourse around, like, is their mission as forward-focused as others, which I think may have hurt them bringing this sort of creme de la creme talent in. But they brought in Alexander Wang's superintelligence operation. A lot of those prize recruits quickly decamped, and a lot of them went to OpenAI as well. And then we also saw, of course, co-founder and former chief scientist officer at OpenAI, Ilya. He went on to do SSI.
Sounds like it's going very well. Just raised $5 billion from NVIDIA.
Oh, he's having a great time. He's having a great time with what
and sounds like they're actually becoming. They actually have a product now, potentially.
Well, yeah, he said it's time to scale.
The capital is there now to go and build the product that they said they had to get to first. So they're on step 2.
Yeah. I think the trend seems to be throughout the article that Axios put out that money matters. Some researchers receive offers that are difficult to refuse, while others want equity in companies like Anthropic or OpenAI before a potential IPO, because obviously you can figure out why it would just absolutely explode. And then this is where we picked up the initial news, but a source familiar told Axios that Anthropic CEO Dario has expressed concerns about new talent coming to the firm for money rather than business. This is what we picked up. This is what hit the timeline. This is what started trending. I think Polymarket picked it up. Obviously, Kalshi had picked it up. MTS covered it. And then also we were lucky enough to break the original news. But they counterbalance this with saying compensation alone doesn't effectively explain the movement. It's not just the money that's driving a fire behind people. Top researchers have said that they also care deeply about the access to computing power, influence over what gets built, and freedom to pursue their preferred technical approach. In a field where many participants believe their work could reshape the global economy or determine which company develops transformative AI first, status, ambition, and ideological differences can matter as much as money. I personally would disagree with that. It seems to be that you can just slap whatever cash you want in front of these people and they would join, but I guess that wouldn't stop them leaving. You could go. I think
a lot more people are narrative driven than you think. I think so.
Everyone has their price, man.
They do have maybe, yeah. But did you ever watch that BlackBerry film?
Oh yeah, really good.
Where the guy at Google is like, what happened? I think he was at Google or somewhere, and the guy was like, "I'll offer you $2 million." He's like, I can't do that. Yeah, I'm staying at this company. He was like, all right, 5. He's like, can't do that. Staying at this company, 50 or something bonkers.
He goes high.
Everyone does have a price, but
he was also. I think
it's like, hey, look, like this is my career. This is what I want to go and do. I want to be eligible for capital later on, potentially once I've left this incredible company. I want to go and choose that company that like plays that correct narrative that I'm like striving for. Yep. Because if I don't know, you go to one AI lab and you go and then you finish and then you go and raise money for a different different narrative of what like you were working for say 5+ years. Maybe that opens up questions. So you kind of want like almost like a smooth transition maybe. So I would say like there is narrative to play for sure. Like yes, kind of money flings around, but I think these people know that they're going to be post money regardless of what job they take, and it just depends on the kind of lab founders who are deciding, okay, am I going to play the game where we are just going to be the best paying and then try and build that great narrative that people want to come to us, or are we going to find those mission-driven people that really get our narrative, and then reimburse them maybe later down the line for the work that they've done. So a bit of game theory in there, always fun.
Yeah, it's they spoke to Tara Schulman, a financial advisor who works with many newly minted tech millionaires, is the way that they've introduced her, which is a brilliant introduction. Yeah,
nice to meet you. Tara. I'm a new, minted millionaire.
She's a financial advisor who works with many newly minted tech millionaires. What a great way to introduce yourself.
I'm newly minted. That. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Nice to meet you, newly minted.
I work with newly minted millionaires. Really cool way to introduce yourself. They also mentioned engineers who have had lucrative careers are asking themselves, what if that changes? It comes up very often, more so than you think, with folks that have a ton of equity comp and are in a very successful financial position. It just wouldn't make sense to bounce if you're sitting on like a big chunk of from an employee's perspective, contextually a big chunk of like Anthropic stock or OpenAI stock. Yeah. And you're hearing IPOing in potentially 6 months.
Yeah. Well, see, maybe this is why there's less. I mean, there's more movement than I think traditional media is explain. Is kind of reporting on. But there might be less considering that, right? Yeah. People know that we're at the end game here. Let me just stick it out. Like even if it's a year and a half, which I don't think it will be. I think what was that Polymarket graph that we pulled up the other day? Chance of IPOing, Anthropic IPOing by the end of towards the end of the year was still at like 60%. So what's that? 6 months away, less so. And so you are basically at end game, regardless of whether it's a year and a half or probably less. You might as well just stay. So there will be less people moving around for sure at the kind of like frontier top level.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure.
I agree. While we are here, mentioned Polymarket. Let me tell you about them. Let me tell you what they do. It's Polymarket. It's the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed. Profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com to get a hold of all that good stuff.
Yeehaw.
Let's go to, what was the timeline saying about all this? We saw some brilliant takes. It was pretty one-sided.
It was one-sided.
There was some good specific, a mix of, this is hilarious, breaking news, people want to get paid for doing their job, kind of like bunch in that camp. And then we had...
so many in that camp.
A lot.
I would
The
say
majority
like
of
thousands of tweets and comments.
The majority were definitely in that camp.
Indeed.
We also had some more interesting takes, a deeper dive into why this is happening, some experiences from founders. We can pull up the first one. Anton, actually, from Lovable this morning, picked this up and said, it's hard not to hire impressive people who are there for the wrong reason, but it's usually worth it in the long run. And this was probably one of the better takes from today. Basically, he's telling people it can be incredibly alluring at that moment in time, right? And we mentioned it just earlier. If I'm offering this individual, 2 million signing bonus, their base is 1.8, they've got a nice equity package, that's all, well and good. And maybe Thinking Machines as an example, I appreciate that's co-founder level, so it's a little bit different. But yes, that would probably get them in the door, but is it going to keep them there? And I think that's probably more when the mission comes in. If you sold them on a false mission or they're not truly aligned with your mission,
sure,
but you're offering them loads of money to get into the door, that's great. It will get them into the door, but then you're forgetting about the second order effects. Like, okay, now they're in. Do they want to stay?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's some sort of vesting period on the signing bonus maybe to help negate that, but maybe they just have so little leverage that they have to give the cash up front.
I don't know. Well, maybe, that's a point. I feel like they have to. I mean, if the game of VCs, they play the game of, kind of vesting periods for their founders and everything. I think it's pretty standard. People aren't just going to be paid.
But if it's signing bonuses,
multi-millions.
If I'm going to an investment bank, I think the signing bonus is paid maybe when you join on first day, though.
Yeah, sometimes maybe.
So maybe maybe it is on the first day.
It's an order, but it's an order of magnitude. They'll be paid a few hundred K, but it's an order of magnitude less than a 2 million signing bonus. I just don't think you just get paid.
Yeah, there has to be
sign the letter, 2 million quid into your bank account.
I'd literally be cheers. I'm off.
yeah. I am now post money.
Yeah, literally. That was Anton's take, founder at Lovable. I thought that was one of the more sensible takes we had today and one of the more informative takes.
He woke up and chose philosophy.
Yeah, he
Smartness.
put his philosopher hat on today, which is always good to see from Anton.
Daniel Tenner came out with a pretty interesting take. 238 views. This thing should have more. Happy to hear that Anthropic is doing the reverse OpenAI move and converting it into a non-profit charity. Mate, he's just playing the games, Dario. He knows what he's doing.
I thought it was really good. I saw this and it had 200. When I saw it, it had 115, and I was like, "What's going on here?
Let it run.
This is a great. I maybe just got in too late. Maybe maybe he missed the run. He came in too late. You've got to be coming in early.
It was posted this morning at 8:48. Don't know.
Missed the run. The early bird catches the impressions.
Worms.
That's the saying. So yeah, that was a great bang over there. This one for me was brilliant. This was from Chris Back. He says, I'm becoming increasingly concerned that the new baristas at the Corgi Cafe are only working there for a paycheck as opposed to the company's mission. And I love to see Corgi is now becoming this it's becoming the meme epicenter of the timeline, but it wasn't even a fad. Normally you have okay, here's a Chamath meme, for example, might be dead in a week, something. The Corgi one kind of has just stayed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are now connecting. Yeah, it's okay, here's the new thing, but how can I connect it back to the Corgi Cafe?
I mean, they haven't even opened the Corgi Cafe, and it's already done incredible numbers.
Yeah,
right? They've already done very, very well on getting in the timeline and kind of diffusing into as you say, all of these conversations. Everyone knows about the Corgi Cafe, and they haven't even opened it.
And they've not even opened it.
So kudos to
They are serving coffee, but
but
they've not had that. I think that's for friends of friends.
Okay.
Insider trading coffee.
Fine.
Just while we are discussing this, I don't actually have the tweet to hand, but one of my favorite ones I've seen, and we have to get this guy on, is Atlas, at Creatine Cycle, the host of the Members of Technical Staff podcast out in SF.
Sure.
But he said, he was never ask a woman her age, never ask a man his salary, never ask the Corgi Cafe manager about the incidents. Bro, and I literally that. I don't burst out laughing at tweets that often, but that one really got me, to be fair. So that was brilliant. I don't have it to hand, unfortunately, but it was a good one.
Very sad, very sad. Let's dive deep into what Anthropic is paying its engineers. Now, I don't exactly know. Let me just have a look at the source here.
It looks pretty legit with the branding.
Yeah, Levels FYI submission. US software engineers at Anthropic last 24 months. So maybe the source is right, but software engineer, you get hired in as your base salary. You make $250,000 a year with a 125 equity package, equity and bonus package. Actually, let's just jump into the top here. Median total compensation for the US software engineers at Anthropic, by Anthropic's own level. Most of every package is equity, not salary, as you would expect. Then you get promoted. Your salary jumps $200,000 or just under $320,000 in cash as a base salary, and then $242 as equity as a nice little bonus. Jumps again, $320,000. So your base stays the same, but you just have more. You have more of the slice of the pie, as they say. And similar thing to the best staff software engineers are making a total of $1.3 million as a package. Again, cash is kind of staying fairly similar, but the equity absolutely just shoots up. $900,000, almost $1 million of equity.
How many impressions
you are getting?
Did that get?
This is on 428,000 views.
Who was that? Who posted it?
Congrats to Zuahir Musa. I think he runs a company that does this data, by the way.
We should talk to him.
We should talk to him.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Zuahir, if you're listening, please respond to us.
Thank you for your work on the timeline.
Thanks for your service.
It's very, very helpful. Another one over here from Matt Smith. He's taken a different kind of tone. He's wondering, why does Dario sound like he's having a perpetual panic attack? It's Matt Smith. At Nerd Alert is his handle. Brilliant handle there, Matt. This made me think. I wonder how the lab leaders are feeling right now. Who's winning? And when I say winning, it's usually based off two parameters. One is just like model competency, who, regardless of whether it's like actually doing real work, it just seems to be like whoever's benchmark is highest is winning right now.
Who's winning the breaking into companies?
And acquiring them.
Yeah.
Any moves. But there seems to be two benchmarks. First is literally just the benchmarks, whose model is performing at total performance on, what are the parameters that sort of we have all just agreed on.
And it sounds like OpenAI is kind of getting
edging away. Yeah. Well, and then the other one is who's winning the comms war.
And now the revenue.
Anthropic are nowhere to be seen in the comms
revenue.
war. I'm not sure. Are they crushing OpenAI on revenue?
Yes. They're not crushing, but they've caught up, I think.
80 bill on the way to 100 bill
I'm
for
searching it up.
Anthropic, but I'm not 100% sure what OpenAI is right now. But yeah, I guess those would be the three things probably, because they've nailed enterprise adoption.
Yeah, Anthropic has surpassed OpenAI in annualized revenue run rate, representing a major shift in the artificial intelligence landscape. As of summer 2026, Anthropic's annual recurring revenue has soared to between $47 and $74 billion. What a window. Effectively doubling OpenAI's steady run rate of roughly $25 to $30 billion. Now, I don't exactly know how. That was from a LinkedIn post that Gemini has pulled that from.
Oh, gosh. That's too bad.
Layers of...
That's a quad-layered SPV of information right there, my friend. Wow. You're like that a guy wrote down on a napkin.
Anthropic is now tracking $74 billion in annualized revenue, nearly double OpenAI. That was the hook of the LinkedIn post from Simon Taylor.
Simon Taylor's legit.
Yeah,
Simon, okay, I didn't know.
So I think
Simon.
it's pretty fine.
Sorry, Simon.
The page underneath that number, 550 million of new ARR added every single day, almost $500 million in annual revenue every week. So December 9 billion, then February 14, April 30, May 47, and then July tracker estimate is around 47 billion.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was so the 47 billion was actually reported, and OpenAI's size, I assume it's been reported that they're on 25 billion or around that level. So anyway, look, let's say conservatively 10 to 15 billion ahead of OpenAI. So yes, correct.
Yeah, they said, so wow, that's insane. So May was 47 billion. They've gone to 80 billion in,
Well,
June,
it's
July, August.
like it's projected.
Well, I think the projected was 100. I saw like hit 80 because that's a week old, and like a week in Anthropic's revenue timeline can be literally 10 years for another company. Which is astounding. Yeah, no, absolute thank you, Matt Smith, for bringing that to our attention. Spore came back with this one is the one that we've been discussing so much on the timeline. This is Spore at Sporadica. I'd actually be very curious to see a breakdown of compensation across labs. I just figured Anthropic was right up there with OpenAI, Meta, etc. in competing hard via comp packages, but maybe not. Maybe the religion of Claude is enough of a draw to work under Dario. And I like this because
I think that was a great sentence towards the end, Spore.
Yeah.
Very, very good, because that is very true. They have just taken over the developer ecosystem. Absolutely, like, taken over. I mean, Codex is doing very well now. And the numbers, VB was talking about the numbers, and they are ripping, which is exciting.
Shout out to VB.
But we will see. I mean, it'd be useful to know certain numbers when do you think because they released ChatGPT numbers, which kind of, it's kind of consumer stuff, it's not really developer stuff. Do they release Codex numbers? I don't really know.
But again, these are the variables that we were discussing, right? The three things I think are revenue run rate that you added, which is a great one.
Anthropic.
Benchmarks, like how are they on the benchmarks right now?
OpenAI.
And then also what he says here, the religion of Claude, are they winning the comms narrative? Are they winning the cult-like following? Are they winning the stuff? Which Anthropic were. Now I think they kind of...
Well, it was OpenAI with the Peter Steinberger and kind of agent, that kind of vibe. That was pretty massive.
That was good, and but it's also like, where is it now?
And then they've kind of diffused... Well, I think they're building.
Like crushing. They're building in silence.
Yes.
With no proof of work.
Yeah.
So
boring.
I would call that nothing.
Yeah.
But this is, I think it's one of them. This goes up there with Anton's take from the response, because it's a thought-provoking question. It did 48,000 views. It got people talking. But it does. This is a more a well-defined version of, is it money or mission? Well, is it money? Is it loads of money, or money and mission? And I think that the religion of Claude is maybe starting to fizzle out a little bit. I don't think that it's changing in terms of it's dominated for a long time. They do own most of the enterprise world, but the narrative does seem to be oscillating again back over. It's always a pendulum, right? It's always taking big swings either way, but it does seem to slightly be going in OpenAI's direction. In my opinion.
I mean, that's just the X timeline, so we don't, which I guess is a good sign.
That is
the sign.
That's where these things live,
It is. I just want to tell you about 11 Labs. AI that communicates at the human level across every channel and modality, deploy conversational agents across every customer interaction, and create on-ground content at scale. Go to 11labs.io. Let's do this.
Those guys are great over there.
They really are. I want to talk about the pay strategies. Gurgly Oros.
We owe this guy a shout out, actually.
We do. This guy's a legend. He said, Anthropic know to pay more than any other company on the market, even OpenAI, so if it's about the mission, not the pay below very key competitors and see who joins even so, right? So, play the game. Play.
I'm saying,
but then again, as we were saying at the beginning, there's two games to play, right? So you have this game, which Gurgly's kind of explaining. You want to see if you want to kind of play the field, see who actually wants the mission, and say almost like put a stand and be like, I'm going to take less, and it could be a kind of nice signal to your network, personal network. If you go, hey, I really believe in this company, I'm going to take a lower salary. If it's the thing that Anthropic or OpenAI or whoever it is, deliberately pay less, and you get rewarded for, actually staying in the game. And then, maybe they have some form of kind of package and structure where, if you stay for a certain amount of time, you get remunerated past the level that you would have at another lab. So that is a potential game. Whether it's a long-term game, whether an Anthropic or an OpenAI or Google DeepMind actually want to play that game and kind of publicly say that. I don't know. Or you've got the other game, which is just pay them more.
I think that's the only game they can play for 2 reasons.
I don't know, man. I think this one, Gerville's saying, is like, you're playing chess, not checkers.
But it's like, I think that would end up, see who joins. I think the answer would be no one. I think they can only play one game because of 2 things. And that game is huge pay packages, aggressively hire fast, for 2 reasons. One is when these numbers were first coming out, these multi-million-dollar signing bonuses and stuff for AI researchers, the question kept coming up: why are they paying people this much money?
Yeah.
And I saw a really good take, and I can't remember who it was by. This is 6-7 months ago now. It was Nikita. It was Nikita X.
Sure.
He said the question to ask is how much money would you pay today for infinite money in the future? Because that infinite money resembles AGI, future of abundance, hitting the singularity.
Whoever wins, wins.
Whoever wins, right? So and that question is always infinite early to get the only answer to that is I will pay infinite today to get infinite tomorrow. So I think that's one reason. If AGI is the all-encompassing,
that just means all the engineers have insane leverage.
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah,
I think that's what's happening. I think John Jumper's leaving. AlphaFold King is going to Anthropic, Ilya or something mad. And then the other one is
sorry, go on.
The horizon is in front of us.
Yeah,
we're running out of time. I don't think there is a long game anymore. I think we're seeing these maths breakthroughs. What does it look in 6 months? What does it look in 2 months?
Well, Nick said we're in the singularity. So
I love the way he said that, by the way. When he said that, I was watching the clips last night.
We're in the singularity.
He kind of said it. He's like, we're in the singularity, right?
I love that. Okay, so flip back to the other side of the game that I think they could / should be playing. If we pull this up, this is from Dar at Rad Backward, says Elon cracked this code. Pay people below market to check for mission alignment. Make the most talented and mission aligned rich as soon as proven. Smile, laugh, fart, and build S fast together forever. I think it's align with your people, go and figure out who are those people, and then go and remunerate them very, very, very well. More than you would have. Which I assume this is something that Elon does. I don't really know.
I think it's a great take, but I just don't think that
it's possible.
Makes sense for frontier AI labs.
Yeah, fine.
Because there's not enough time to play the long game.
Yeah, fine.
And I just think you're just opening it wide open for competitors. You will probably get some great people coming through that door. But of the 100 that you could get, maybe 2 come in, 5. It would be
you get less,
a lot less, and they'll be great. Don't get me wrong, and they'll work their ass.
And then also one will slip, and you'll pay one more, and then it's like, wow.
Then you're screwed.
Then
your rockets are blowing up in space.
God.
That was basically again coming into that sort of sensible pool of takes on the timeline today. This one was from good friend of the show, good friend of ours, Wojtek.
That's the boy.
He says, "Hi Dario, please send them to Warsaw so we can make a ton of money together." And this one was close to home, Those guys are killing it.
Shooting his shot.
He's shooting his shot. He's giving a public call out. It makes a lot of sense. Why would you not? Warsaw's on the up. Poland's on the map. Look, hey, if you don't ask, you don't get. Maybe we see tomorrow breaking Dario is relocating Anthropic HQ to Warsaw on request of Wojtek.
Let's go.
And I hope he does.
The Wojtek Dario collab.
And it's what everyone's been waiting for. Everyone's asking for it. Let's just give the people what they want,
Dude, I'm here for it. I want it to happen.
Give the people what they want.
Also, I want to happen. Duo. The AI analytics platform where trust meets insights. Hex helps teams of all sizes by giving teammates the ability to get insights from their data wherever they work. Go to hex.tech.
We're going deep. And we're going hard.
Indeed we are.
Yes, we are.
Let's... have we got more?
Yeah. A couple more. This is from Dr. Parik Patel, BA, CFA, ACCAS.
Oh God! I saw this quote tweet came through, and I was like, "Who the hell has a name that long?"
So good. So he's playing a LinkedIn game here on X. He's got all of his qualifications, all of his certifications in his Twitter bio, which is I'm I've not seen this technique before.
Dude's got 1.7
Ballsy
million
move.
followers, to be fair.
He's obviously crushing. He's brought the LinkedIn game over to X, and it's working. It's working very well. He says, Parik Patel, CFA, it's even in his app, Parik Patel, CFA, says, man paying $400K for events manager is surprised people are joining his company for money instead of mission.
That's
which
crazy.
I didn't actually know they were paying that much for their
It is on target earnings, to be fair, which...
events. Oh, is it? Okay, so
Yeah,
to you.
so the annual compensation range for this role is listed below. For sales roles, the range provided is the role's on-target earnings, OTE, everyone knows what that is, range, meaning that the range includes both the sales commissions, sales bonuses, target, and annual base salary, and potential, and, you know, the sweets that you get on a Thursday afternoon, you know.
Bananas
so
in the office.
320,000 to 400,000 USD OTE. So,
but to be fair,
Dr. Patel is, you know, he's you know.
But to be fair,
it is
other marketing events lead brand will be like 150 OTE. So like, I do think we have to. This is an insane.
You're still
amount of
getting
money
paid
to
like
pay for
absolute like bank.
a marketing events.
If we pull the next one up, this was from former OpenAI model behavior researcher Joanne Zhang. You pull it up on Ronan's laptop.
Let me find this.
She acknowledges growth-driven pressures may speed this shift, but kind of like highlights Anthropic's remaining chance to slow cultural changes. You know, she scaled kind of both the labs. She says, I have this theory that Anthropic is 1.5 years behind OpenAI on culture and coification.
Enterprise readiness, I guess.
Big coification. It might accelerate with growth, and parts of it are inevitable, but they still have the opportunity to slow it down. I mean, she's a respected person in the space.
Yeah. So she's saying that Anthropic 1.5 years behind OAI on culture. You know, pick your poison. That's objective. There's no sort of factual way we can measure that.
Sure.
Big coification. I mean, is she suggesting this is like the enterprise game? I think there are stats that would prove that wrong.
Yeah, it's a bit. I think what she's saying is they're 1.5 years, like late almost.
Yeah.
They're like, the fact that they're growing so quickly might kind of like push certain cultural changes, but Anthropic has like the ability, like they still have the chance, they're still young enough to have the chance to like slow down these cultural changes, to be like, hey, we're going to go and like go down this path and choose like, we're going to pay, we're going to do the Elon way, pay them less, that kind of thing. So she's basically saying like, Anthropic actually has an advantage potentially in a way, and yeah, very respected, you know, former OpenAI model kind of researcher. So yeah, I think it is a good take.
It's nice that we can have takes from those ex-employees as well. That adds a bit of validity to the conversation.
Indeed,
which is always nice. I think that was our last one for the timeline conversations around. Around Dario's concerns. Again, just to recap, catalyzed by the Axios article that came out the other day. While you guys are here and you're sitting down with me, let me tell you about our friends over there at Framer. Framer, build better sites faster. It is the all-in-one platform where enterprise teams design, build, and ship production-ready websites. No dev handoff, no bottlenecks, no creative compromises. Go to framer.com at TTN to get all that good stuff from those guys over there.
Indeed. Let's touch very, very, very briefly on the Bending Spoons acquisition. Bending Spoons has acquired Airtable for $2.25 billion in its first acquisition since its IPO. Sifted came out with the article this morning. Italian roll-up giant expanding beyond consumer apps with another major enterprise software acquisition. The deal announced on Tuesday continues the Milan-based company's rapid acquisition spree as it seeks to build what CEO Luca Ferrari has described as a legendary institution. By buying, rebuilding, and integrating software businesses. Founded in 2013, Airtable develops software that combines spreadsheet and database functionality. I'm sure everyone knows what Airtable is. And the acquisition it's expected to close by the end of the year, subject to regulatory approvals. There were some interesting takes. So this came out this morning, and the first one that I wanted to kind of pull up was Didi. He said, wow, Airtable, founded in 2012 and once valued at $11.7 billion. We can pull this up on the screen if we can. Is getting acquired by Bending Spoons, founded in 2013 at 2.7x ARR. A once hot startup, now an unfortunate victim of the SaaS bust. It raised $1.4 billion. That's literally half of what it's been acquired for. That's actually nuts. Only to be sold for $1.25 billion EV, which is $2.25 billion equity value, just clearing its preference stack. That implies common and early shareholders split remaining the $850 million, which is a 10x haircut from its peak. Basically, a little bit doomer, sad times. We'll get them next time.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Surely, who's walking away with cash there? Just the founders, maybe? But even then, no, if they've raised...
I don't think so.
The valuation was, what did you say? Like, it was like
12 billion.
$12 billion?
Yeah.
So I guess maybe just no one's getting any. Maybe the founders... Oh, you will have taken secondaries on the way up, for sure.
100%. Yeah. Well, they've raised $1.4 billion.
They will have walked away. Founders will have walked away. You know, what did Airtable raise up? At what stage were they at? Do we know? Did it say it in the article or no?
I have no idea. Monot talks about the acquisition itself and said Bending Spoons is acquiring Airtable for $2.25 billion. As we said, Airtable has $965 million of cash, so the EV is $1.285 billion. Airtable has raised $1.35 billion of VC capital. Last round was in December 2021 at $11.75 billion. So they haven't done a round in 5 years.
Yeah, they're probably suffering pretty heavily. But your founders probably got some good cash on the way up.
480 million ARR, growing 20% year on year. It's 2.7x ARR.
I mean, it sounds like a bargain for Team Spoons.
Absolute steal. Absolute steal. Surprised they're selling with so much cash. They have $1 billion in cash. What are they doing? Sitting on that. Go and, put some money into ETN or something.
Yeah, sponsor us. This was cool, and it's doing numbers. The announcement that people seem to really sort of get behind the announcement. I don't know if maybe it was a shock that Airtable wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
Maybe I think people are like, I thought these guys were doing all right. They, recent valuation was, as you say, around 11 billion. Maybe it was a little bit of a surprise. It was a surprise to me when I saw it. I was like, what the hell? Didn't know that those guys were bleeding.
No, I didn't really think it's Airtable.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great, and it is a great product.
But they're probably stuck. Very quickly. Bending Spoons right now will probably be having a field day, just buying up all these kind of middle companies that are getting. The narrative is killing them because the models are just like killing industries left, right, and center, allegedly. But I don't think they actually are. But I think allegedly they are. So if I'm a series, if I'm at growth stage. And my ARR is burning, but my burn rate is also like killing me because it's growth at all costs kind of here.
Well, growth is slowing, 20%, VC-backed business. You're probably not going to get bought for anything, more than $11 billion.
You have to push. We need to put all the money in the furnace and push ourselves to, raise one massive Series E.
What are they going to go and do with $1 billion? Airtable. Just chuck a load of money into marketing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's like maybe they're growing, but they're just not growing quick enough that would attract a VC.
Think about they're a database company, right? So think about a Clay. They've done an incredible job and growing very quickly. I want to say they've hit profitability semi-recently.
I have no idea.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they're ripping. So I assume with $1 billion in cash, you could probably I'm sure they've tried. But it's almost like down, not out. But then again, if you've been doing it, you haven't been able to raise a round for 5 years.
That's the problem, I think.
You're in the trenches still. Your valuation is way down. Like they raised money back in 21. That was a record year for VC spending, for VC investment. Valuations were sky high. So if they can't, and this market's very similar. If you can't raise money in this market. I guess it's not looking good. put your chips away.
I think
go and play another game.
Their growth was like attractive for the pre-AI era.
Sure.
But once these AI native companies are coming out and their ARR, like their acceleration is just, I mean, look at Anthropic, like we just discussed. I know that's like a really extreme example. If they're adding what companies will make very good companies will make in 10 years in a month, right? Yeah. So like the game has kind of changed.
Yeah, 100%.
How VCs measure metrics, like what it takes to raise a series A or B today is very different to 2021.
You're right.
So maybe like we need the money to keep coming in to fuel the engine, but we can't attract the money. So now the engine's dying. So now we don't look like we're that good. And that's just like a perpetual feedback loop of like, can't get the money, so it's slowing. Now it's even more unlikely that we can't get the money. Now it's slowing even more.
Yeah, you're right.
Bending Spoons comes to the rescue.
Yeah. Ciao. Well, I had a
Bonjour.
I had a tweet that's actually been deleted since it. It was like Bending Spoons is the Thanos of collecting failing companies. And then there was a great tweet from MT as well. If we pull this up, Airtable engineers right now.
I think this is banger of the day, actually.
This is almost banger of the day.
I think this is banger of the day.
Okay, no, let's call this banger of the morning.
Banger of the morning.
Yeah, banger of the morning. Congrats.
Let's go. That was really good.
Great.
That what's it on right now? Because it was really low when I saw it. What? This is mind blowing. Are we just not funny?
Banger of the morning. 44 views.
Mate, that deserves more.
We go into the trenches of X and find the baggers.
Yeah.
Congrats to MT at one more POC.
One more POC. That's all it takes. Just one more POC. Keep
That's
going.
good.
You get there, brother.
You'll get there. Anyway, let's move on to the next story because the next story is great.
This is
Before
important to discuss.
BVNK accelerating the global money movement. BVNK provides enterprise-grade stablecoin infrastructure for global businesses, enabling fast, compliant payments and digital asset solutions worldwide. Go to bvnk.com. Let's talk about Aperol Spritz and Hugo Spritz.
The most important news of the day. Hugo Spritz. Boom. Shakes Aperol Fizz. For me personally, I'm sad to see it.
I'm not. I'm wearing my Hugo Spritz shirt.
Aperol is my thing. Hugo is not my thing.
I love it.
It's not my thing, but I just prefer an Aperol.
Let's go through the FT article. I love how this was posted on the FT. What page is this on? Travel and leisure industry. Yeah, okay, to be fair. Sales of Bacardi's Saint-Germain liquor are growing faster than Campari's Aperol this summer as the Hugo Elderflower Spritz trend takes hold in the US, challenging the Italians' group dominance of the aperitif market. Demand for the elderflower liquor in the US soared 40% in the past 3 months as Spritz drinkers switched away from the lurid orange Aperol, which fell 4% in the same period, according to Nielsen IQ. Great work, Nielsen IQ. You guys are doing God's work. Ed Mundy, analyst at Jefferies, God, imagine this being your job. That'd be great. Said that until the group got Aperol sales growth accelerating once more, he would not upgrade the stock from its current hold recommendation. Aperol makes up more than a quarter of Campari's group sales. Campari has outperformed spirit rivals such as Diageo over the past 3 years, thanks to its supremacy of the aperitif category. Campari, Aperol, and the Italian group's hot pink Sarti Rosa have flown off the shelves thanks to their use in spritz cocktails, popular for their Instagram-friendly bright colors and lower alcohol content. Now, can we pull the screen up for this graph here to just demonstrate Saint-Germain's year-on-year growth has exceeded Aperol's for the past 2 summers.
Oh, it's the past 2 summers.
They're on a double summer run right now.
Double summer run.
Let's go. So if you think, what happened in July 2024? There was a little spike around July, just after July, of Saint-Germain.
Of both.
Don't really know what happened there. And then way down in Jan, as they would, no one's really drinking those. Hugo's, in Jan 25, it's hitting lower numbers than Aperol's. Aperol's is still being drunk in the winter, and then see that growth in summer of 25.
Yeah, wow.
Of Hugo
was
Spritz.
that just a new CMO?
They have just killed it. They've posted a few Instagram reels about Hugo, and he's ripping, and he's absolutely tearing, and that's it. You know, Saint-Germain is far exceeding Aperol, and then again, Aperol is down. It said 4% down this summer, but Saint-Germain absolutely taking it in with a 40% growth.
I must say, I've been doing my fair share of field research
I
recently.
am increasing shareholder value of Saint-Germain.
But I'm not seeing this. I'm seeing Hugo he's coming into the conversation now. You know, some people, you know, there's maybe 5 people there, 4 Aperols getting out. Someone gets a Hugo. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Kind of want to say I was early to Hugo.
Really? You claiming that?
Yeah. I think my girlfriend would say otherwise.
I'm definitely
She'd say I introduced you to that.
I'm definitely late.
I'm going to show her this clip.
I'm 100% late. But I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that on the ground. I'm not seeing that in the field. I'm not seeing
the Hugos?
I'm not seeing that.
I'm not seeing
delta.
a 40%.
No, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing maybe
But then again, but think about it, right? Like Aperol, it's the growth in conversation. It's not necessarily like, you know, like kind of sales, general sales. So sales is still probably like fairly similar.
Okay, yeah, growth in general. Yeah, I was going to say the fact
like getting up there into the category is what they're doing, and they're doing it far better than Aperol. But then again, Aperol has everything to lose. They are the front runner. They're the winning. They're the winning people.
They can't rest on their laurels. They just can't do it.
No.
You'd hate to see it if they did that. And it's looking, there's an enemy territory out here.
Yeah.
Hugo is lurking behind enemy lines.
Yeah,
but I will say, I walked down, Little Venice on a sunny morning or a sunny Saturday.
Morning.
Oh mate, Aperols are for day drinking, and that's where you do your Aperols. I recently had an Aperol tour actually with a few guys, Dan, Jack.
Nice.
We
no Hugos about.
No Hugos.
Hugo didn't join the party.
No Hugo didn't get the call up. No Hugos. No Hugo Spritz is there. It was just pure Pims and then Aperol. This is what I'm saying. Maybe I'm just stuck in an Aperol bubble. I think that's a great thing.
I think that's a bad thing. Let's see what the analysts say. They say, we see it as an opportunity. If someone's going to help build the category, fantastic. Campari has poured investment into marketing Aperol to the US drinkers this year, deploying 21 brand ambassadors across 11 states. The British executive said there was an enormous growth potential for the category, noting that Spritz penetration in the UK was 3% of the market compared to 1% in the US. 2/3 of the growth in Spritz consumption comes for consumers switching from beer, with the final third switching from wine, according to Jeffries. They're doing God's work over there. It's good. On Wednesday, Milan listed Campari reported that Aperol sales grew 3.3% in the first half of the year, a material slowdown from historic peaks. The company raised its profit outlook on Wednesday thanks to the refunding of US tariffs imposed on European Spritz import.
I've just got to quickly jump in and say Monty Anderson, CEO at Prodial Labs, has said only real ones know Saint-Germain. So he's sided with you.
Let's go, Monty.
I'm sat here on my own. Where are my Aperol homies at? Where are all my Aperol homies at?
We love it, Monty. Let's go for a Hugo. Let's do it.
Sam, Aperol, Hugo, what's the weapon of choice? Let's just throw this out to the studio because I need some backing here. I'm a man down. Let's bring producer Sam.
Sorry, I'm with Luke on this one. It's
come on.
It's Hugo all the way. But I'll specify none of this.
The Frenchman.
Can we hit the
none
Frenchman?
Of this, none of this gin. None of this gin elderflower. It has to be Saint-Germain. I'll say that.
Can we get the wide camera up?
Can we just hit?
Yeah. Let's see.
Hit the Frenchman over there. Let's just bring him in real quick before. Bring in the Frenchman. Round of applause, everyone, for Alex, Chief of Staff at ETN.
Aperol or Hugo Spritz?
I've already just posted about this. I said, you give me 24 hours in the US and a pack of Marlboro Gold, and I will reverse the trend. Aperol is going all the way. Aperol is making a comeback. Just tap me in, Chief.
Yeah.
I will do it.
Let's go.
I think I'm throwing up.
Enemy spotted. Go away. Max, come in.
Come in. Let's go. Let's hear it from Max. Bringing in, ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Max.
Question is,
head intern at ETN.
Aperols or Hugo Spritz? What's your poison?
My poison is Hugo Spritz.
Yes, let's go.
That's it.
Let's go.
No.
We love it. We love
So
it.
there we go. We've got a
what's that?
3-2. 3-2.
Max, we're going to settle this at the Corgi Cafe. You know,
Let's do this.
You hate to see it. You hate to see it.
You know, it happens to the best of us. Don't worry.
Look, the numbers aren't lying.
Don't worry.
We just had an example. The numbers are true.
Yeah.
Breaking, the numbers are true.
I'm excited to be a winner. Talking about winners, Airwallex, leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all-in-one platform. Go to airwallex.com. We have our first guest joining in a minute, but I think we can probably start on the bangers of the day, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. That sounds good to me. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you about our friends over there at MetaView.
Yes.
MetaView. It's the AI agents for winning teams, the agentic recruiting platform built for the radically efficient hiring end-to-end. Source, engage, and hire with better agents. Truly get your brief. Go to metaview.ai.
Indeed. Let's just pull up this Chinese AI video. This has 744,000 views. Now I want to show you this. Have you seen this?
I saw 5 seconds.
Okay, this is beautiful, by the way. Let's just wait until this is pulled up before life when you start using Chinese AI.
This is, I guess, in favor of the open source debate.
This is. I like the music as well, by the way. It's giving, a bit of Avatar vibes, but then... What's that?
Helicopter.
For sure. Gotta make a tune with that. For sure.
Nice.
For sure. Macron remix.
We love it. Let's get our editors on the Macron remix.
Make a quick Macron remix for
Yeah.
that one.
Oh, we're still pulled up on that. There we go. Anyway, that was Chinese AI models.
Can we get up Madeleine Lawrence? She's back at it again. The chief
This is a bit of a
growth
banger,
officer at Aikido Security, previously known for her growth hack of setting up Neo actors from the Matrix to walk around her security booth. She's back at it again. Madeleine Lawrence at Madeleine Lawrence said, had an extra budget and decided to blow it on this cat meme installation at Black Hat. Is
this actually real, do you think? This is my first time thinking, has she not just superimposed this on the banner?
No, I think this is it. I think this is her thing. This is the brilliance of Madeleine Lawrence's growth hacks. 44,000 views.
Indeed. Congrats to Madeleine Lawrence. That was a good tweet.
She
bit of a
previously
banger.
won Stunt of the Month.
Yeah.
On ETN. We do
And
need
now-
to send her something for
And now getting their banger of the day.
banger of the day. Wow.
Yeah, congrats.
Let's, hold on. Let's
Have a nice round of applause. Anyway, let's. I think we have our first guest on. Tristam is in the studio.
Guest
Tristram.
I think we have our
Tristam is
first
here.
guest coming in.
Here we go.
Tristam, how are we, sir? Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
No, absolute pleasure, mate. You've got some big news to share. I think the news came out 5 days ago, but we want to hear it from you. Maybe an introduction and what is the news?
Yeah, so very excited to be emerging from stealth with Agon, which is super exciting. So yeah, we came out of stealth on Wednesday last week, and excited to tell you more about it.
Let's go, sir. And there was a raise involved, a funding round for you guys. Has this raise happened in the past, or was this something that you hadn't really announced yet, and you thought, let's strategically bring this out to everyone? Would love to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So no, we've been quietly building for about 7 months. We founded Agon, myself and my co-founder Junaid Hussain, back in January. And we raised earlier in the year. So yeah, announcing a kind of 30 mil in seed funding, which is exciting. And felt like the right time to be kind of coming out. You know, we've built out our team, products in a good place, and wanted to kind of be slightly more open than we've been.
Nice, love to hear it. This is a space which has been heating up considerably over the past, I would sort of say, from my perspective as an outsider looking in, 2 years, year and a half, it's really sort of come a little bit more into the mainstream. We're seeing the venture capitalists are now sort of openly backing certain things in this space. I think it's a brilliant thing. We were chatting with the Valerian founders the other day. First question on the docket. So you guys have a product called the Arena, if I'm right. Would love to get an explanation of what is the Arena?
Sure. So, Agon is essentially a defense AI company, a European sovereign defense AI company, and we're building the foundational infrastructure for the era of agentic warfare. The first thing we've built really is a platform which we're calling the Arena. So a good way to think of it is a kind of synthetic battlefield where you can develop and stress test autonomous systems and train those autonomous systems or agents against intelligent and evolving adversaries, which are drawn from kind of live conflict data and intelligence. Really, we basically kind of built the company on the premise that the bottlenecks facing developing defense autonomy are really significant. There's a huge emphasis placed on live testing of autonomous systems, which in defense terms is really challenging, particularly across Europe. There's almost nowhere where you can really, develop and train autonomous systems in a way that replicates frontline battlefield conditions without going to the front line of a battlefield like Ukraine or in Iran. And clearly those are suboptimal testing environments. And also live testing, as you guys know, when you think about developing autonomy, and you only have to look at the commercial industry to see this, the bulk of autonomy development and testing and training happens in the synthetic environment before it reaches the real world.
Yeah.
And, the reality is that training and developing autonomous systems in defense is too expensive and it's too slow. And we want to reduce that friction. And that requires building out some kind of fundamental kind of infrastructure layer to essentially give us somewhere to do that development and testing at the scale required.
Yeah.
And that scale piece is a really important one because the direction of travel for defense is, right now we're seeing autonomy on the battlefield. We're not yet seeing true dynamic, collaborative, autonomous swarms operating across all domains, but that is certainly the direction of travel. And right now we don't have the kind of critical infrastructure to develop that, and we certainly don't have it in Europe.
Yeah, I wanted to get a temperature check on kind of agentic warfare overall. You kind of touched on it a little bit just then, but what kind of timescales are we looking at here? And what does in a year's time, what does warfare kind of look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think you only have to look at Ukraine to see how drones have completely redefined the battlefield.
Yeah.
I've been operating in defense and defense tech for 2 decades. Joined Anduril in 2020. Before Agon was at Applied Intuition, so I've been working with autonomous systems really since they became a thing.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is that the battlefield has fundamentally, completely changed from when I was operating inside defense, a decade ago. And I think that direction is only going one way, which is, increasingly we're going to see operations at machine speed, at increased complexity. And I think one of the alarming things is for the first time in human history, our commanders are at this point where they're going to lose the ability to really kind of innovate and define what battlefield advantage looks like. Mm-hmm. That is increasingly going to come from artificial intelligence. And unless we augment our commanders today with the right kind of artificial intelligence, we're going to be on the wrong side of history. So it's hard to tell you how it's going to look in a year. The reality is, our strategic adversaries are investing very heavily in this space. And we are effectively in an arms race, I think. And predominantly we're seeing that play out between China and the US. And where Europe sits in that is yet to be determined, which is one of the kind of fundamental reasons that we felt we needed to build this company.
Sure.
Yeah. You mentioned it just then, like your background, incredible CV to go on to create something like what you're doing right now. Are there things like learnings from the past, from these companies you've worked at that you're bringing into Agon? Is there something that Anduril did really well or Prime Intellect did really well? Would be curious to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's good lessons I draw both from time in the military as well as those companies. All of them I've learned, very, very very good things at. It's been a privilege to work in those companies. I think fundamentally the ecosystem you described at the beginning is really changing. There is now this kind of growing ecosystem within Europe of people building autonomous systems. I think in many ways, maybe Anduril was a kind of, a leader in demonstrating that actually a new approach should be done. Mm-hmm. and was kind of groundbreaking there. The reality is, like, many companies now are fielding amazing capabilities. Defense institutions and governments are changing as well, because again, there's two parts to this, right? We could build the best technology in the world. It doesn't necessarily mean that defense will adopt it.
Yeah.
It's historically been a very challenging customer, and typically they're big, large bureaucratic organizations. There's huge intent and willingness to change, like, what has been a pretty stagnant kind of procurement system across the militaries in Europe and including in the UK. And I think that's really encouraging to see. But I think what key lessons would I have learned? I think the reality is, taking a slightly more Silicon Valley approach to defense procurement is starting to become increasingly normal. The traditional defense industry is not an industry that has typically invested the sort of same level of R&D as, for instance, a Silicon Valley technology company. I think increasingly there is a willingness to take that risk, to invest in developing capability at your own cost, to field it fast, even at risk of then having to kind of take it the final 20% in the hands of the user. And that's the fundamental difference and change, which is really encouraging, because we need to accept more risk in how we field and expose capability to defense. Defense needs to take more risk in bringing in kind of new entrants into that field. And I think, although there's a long, long way to go, I'm really optimistic about the direction of travel.
Awesome, really cool. There's something within that I'd be curious to know a little bit more about. Like, how does that procurement process typically work? Like, you said it yourself. You could build amazing technology that stuns the world. It's the best sort of demonstrations, but getting it in the door is the important part, and actually putting it in the hands of individuals who need to use it to, like, to defend themselves or defend the country. What does that process look like? Like, how do you sell to a government of something of this caliber?
Yeah, I mean, increasingly there have been kind of the rise of, like, innovation hubs with the specific task of identifying, like, new battle-changing technology and bringing it into the system. The reality, though, is, like, they're in many ways operating like startups within these big bureaucratic organizations themselves. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they have the right level of budget, sometimes they don't. Often there's they're a group of, like, highly motivated people trying to bring in what they can see is battle-defining technology. Yeah. But it is like not always an easy system to navigate. I think one of the reasons we chose to build Agon is to almost give defense a kind of validation layer where it can actually look at how can it effectively validate and evaluate across a huge ecosystem of autonomous systems providers. How can it validate and evaluate different capability, learn how to warfight with the stuff in the synthetic world before putting huge sums of money on the table and actually procuring it. And increasingly, when we look at rapid changes in hardware and platform capability, I think that's increasingly going to be a requirement, is actually learning how to integrate and field capability at the pace of relevance, and critically in a way that evolves as fast as our adversaries.
Yeah. What are those metrics that you, or the companies that you work with, maybe that are saying, okay, this is now good enough. We're going to go and now put a lot of money into procurement and kind of getting something like out into the field, because I imagine things are moving super quickly. Probably one of the quickest and therefore I think hardest industries to navigate in terms of knowing actually what to build next, and what looks like the right thing to actually invest in and actually make real as a hardware. How, what is that evaluation process look like? What are these companies kind of like benchmarking on metrics to be like, right, this is now what we're going to go and invest in?
Yeah, I think it really varies case by case, but if you were to pick on something like an interceptor drone company, mm-hmm. Measuring their kind of probability of kill or their ability to knock down, an adversary, strike drone. Yeah, often that's kind of being measured in-house, and the reality is, again, I highlighted the constraints of live testing.
Yeah.
It's one thing delivering like a kind of canned demo to a defense customer. It's a very another thing being able to really kind of validate, either having fielded capability on the front line, which is increasingly becoming the de facto requirement for European defense customers, actually proving credentials on a live battlefield. But But the challenge is that's not always available for all of the types of capability we want to field. It's only actually available for a very narrow subset of capabilities. So again, it's kind of back to the kind of thesis of why we built Agon, was to almost build an environment where defense institutions could better evaluate, and indeed people in the industry could better showcase their systems and demonstrate those systems with an element of kind of third-party validation. So that's kind of the intent. But it's a critical challenge for defense. Do you put huge sums of money down on the table at significant risk when the pace of change is so fast? So it's really hard for them to make those commitments.
Well, I mean, the cost of being left behind is countrywide, kind of catastrophe, really, right? So there's so much pressure on these companies.
Is there is there a sort of maybe a misunderstanding for the public in terms of like where are we at today? Like, are we actually further than maybe the public is aware of? I do think like it's probably an area that lacks traditional comms to your general consumer for a bunch of obvious reasons. So maybe there's a bit of like asymmetry there in terms of like how informed am I compared to like how forward thinking are we? Maybe are people potentially underestimating how advanced things are right now?
I think not only are people underestimating where things are today, I think where people are really underestimating is the direction of travel. And I think that's the slightly frightening thing, is that, the pace of change is significant. Like where we're going to be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, remains to be seen. But we need to be making some pretty critical kind of infrastructure investments across Europe. There isn't really a choice for us to sit back and kind of be the referee at the football game. Like we need to take part. We don't really have a choice in the matter. I mean, I'm kind of generally pretty optimistic. Europe has a long history of like pulling together and rowing in the same direction when it's in its darkest hour. And I'm sure that, again, we can once again do that. But like, again, historical rearmament is only one part of the equation. Like this is, we need supply chain resilience. There's a huge trade factor here, huge things to consider for European politicians.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know we're coming closer up to time. Would you be keen, for Agon's point of view, like what do the next 6 months look like? What's top of mind for you guys right now?
Yeah, so again, we're kind of building out our team. Our chairman, David Helgeson, was on your show, I think, a few days ago. We're basically hiring out our kind of members of technical staff now, opening an office in Berlin and London. Really, the next 6 months is doubling down on product and getting that product market fit with some of our early design partners. We've got ambitious plans to keep growing.
Awesome.
Really cool.
Thanks so much for spending the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers, Tristam. Cheers for the good work as well.
Interesting.
Appreciate it.
Before we have our next guest on, MetaView AI agents for winning teams, the agentic recruiting platform built for radically efficient hiring end-to-end. Source, engage, and hire better with agents that truly get your brief. Go to metaview.ai. Next on the show, we have Cillian. I believe we can bring Cillian into the studio.
Just waiting
straight
for
away.
Cillian to get
Founder
tied
and
up.
CEO at Ethyca.
Great conversation. What a background as well.
Super interesting.
I like the...
We need to get more defense people on, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But it's very good use of words where it's both exciting, it's both a little bit scary in terms of that future. Because we always talk about singularity up ahead, future of abundance, AGI, unknown, solves everything, or it's Skynet and everyone dies, whatever. And also a contrasting thing is like that can also happen with defense, right? Yeah. So like kind of, I'm just getting word that we have our next guest coming into the show. We can welcome Cillian over onto the European Technology Network.
Ethyca.
Cillian.
Hello, sir. How's it going?
Good, thank you. Hey, Ron. Hey, Luke. Thanks for having me.
Well, our pleasure, sir. Welcome to the European Technology Network. How are you?
Great, thank you. A pleasure to be here.
Mate, our pleasure. We have a bunch of stuff to get into, a load of different questions. I think we should probably start, if okay with you, about what's going on with Ethyca, any news that you want to share. I know you guys raised some money as well. Give us the lowdown. Give us the tea.
For sure. Thanks, Ronan. So look, the main reason that we're here this week is we have, for us, what is very large news. 7 years of R&D, the culmination of which is the launch of our platform, Australis, today. So Australis is a... Thank you. Yes, it's a huge amount of work. So Australis is a LLRM, so a large language risk and regulatory model. It's built on top of FIDES, which is the world's most adopted data governance ontology, something that we launched originally in 2021, and we've been developing since then with enterprise. And so today is the release of the core commercial platform that allows businesses to govern their AI effectively. Super relevant to the point I heard you just make, Ronan, about like the Skynet future versus the abundant AGI version, right?
Yes, yes.
Not,
Let's talk about it.
not to suggest that the machines are coming for us, but I think we would all benefit from having healthy guardrails around the machines that we use, right? So the goal of Australis is to provide businesses with the core control layer effectively between their data and the models that they use. In effect, it's as simple as that. There's a lot of complicated technology under the hood to achieve that, hence the 7 years of R&D. And to your point, yes, we've raised nearly 45 million to date with participation from Capital One Ventures and a bunch of other awesome investors over the last couple of years.
Amazing. Crushing it, guys. Love to hear it. Let's see if we can talk about that very momentarily, the Skynet future. We were, as you overheard, we were saying there's a lot of talk about the future of a singularity, whether we're in one right now, what does that future of abundance look like? What does the AGI timelines look like? But I guess underserved also is like the impact that can have on defense. Like, is there a potential, or cyber security as well? Like, is there a potential to...
what is singularity for those industries?
Well, I think like singularity, maybe a horizontal application across everything. Once it's reached, like it applies to everything. But is there potential that before we get there, the models can get to such a good point that some of this, the cyber stuff or the defense stuff could maybe take us off course? Could it impact us to a point where it's pandemonium?
Well, I was about to say we're already there, but then you said pandemonium. I won't scare into that much, right? I think if you look at the recent examples with OpenAI and Hugging Face, what you're seeing there are examples of sufficiently sophisticated models that are designed to serve the directive of the user. So in and of itself, the machine isn't trying to do something nefarious, right? It's trying to accomplish the goal you've given it. The risk for us as people, whether that's individuals, humanity, society, or businesses, is that you want to ensure that those machines are harnessed sufficiently that they can go like really, really quickly in the direction that you want them to. Yeah. And the challenge with these models as they become more and more sophisticated is they can overreach. They can, in service to the directive you've given them. So in effect, nobody's trying to slow down AI or innovation. What we're trying to do really is put guardrails or a harness on it so that we can make it act in the way that we want to, safely and confident in the fact that it won't overreach or it won't create those risks. I think, if you look at what we're trying to do with Australis, effectively it's just that, right? The challenge here isn't the quality of the model. Like, arguably, you could say that most models in the last 5 years are sufficiently sophisticated to execute most enterprise AI automation tasks. Yeah. Yet there's a surprisingly low proportion of success in enterprise today, right? Like you guys know the outcome of situational awareness, the dip last week, and Ken Griffin basically saying, look, we're in a .com bubble moment where we don't really know how to value the effectiveness of AI yet. We all agree that it's there, we just don't know how. Yeah. And so as businesses grapple to do that, the thing that there's a dissonance between is effectively models will become commoditized. As clever as they all are today, what will matter most is the proprietary data a business has, right? So each organization can deploy Opus or Fable. The difference will be the underlying data with which you feed it. And what you want to be able to do is harness the machine and the data so that you can safely and effectively use those things together to avoid a Skynet outcome or even a Hugging Face, right?
Yeah. So with that in mind, with the kind of the hacks that have happened over the past week or week and a half, how do you kind of manage that balance between allowing a model to kind of go and do, as you say, right, what it's kind of built for, but then not overreaching, but then again you kind of want it to have as much context as possible to be able to get into systems that you need it to be in to perform the task to the best of its ability, like a human would go and do. So where's that where's that balance? And I assume Ethyca comes into this conversation a lot with that problem.
Right. So the best way to solve that the sort of moral maze of that question is if you reduce it back to humans and not machines for a moment. If a new employee joins a business fundamentally and you want them to have access to all of the data, what you do is you effectively give them policies and training to ensure that, Ronan knows what information he can touch and how he can use it under what conditions. The challenge with machines moving at machine speed is there's no longer a manager or governance oversight of every transaction. You can't put a human along the wire of every transaction. Sure. So the goal here effectively is to codify policies into governable infrastructure, right? So I can state as a business what we do and don't do with certain types of data in certain jurisdictions, under certain conditions or certain contracts, and ensure the machine respects that. And that's what we mean by harness, is effectively being able to wrap the machine and the surrounding data layers with context that allows us to understand what it is, where it came from, why we have permission to use it, and what we can do with it in our business and constrain the use to that. And that's how you prevent those kinds of outcomes. So we think of this as policy as code or governance infrastructure, effectively.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it's connected to another question that we wanted to discuss was the China open source discourse in general. A lot of the takes are, well, one, are they threatening frontier models? Are they being sort of subdued based off that that assumption? But you guys kind of have a look at another angle. It's not really sort of any sort of macro scale problem specifically, but it's more about the data that's going into them. What's it giving away? They're not. It's a non-domestic. So they're a non-ally domestically. Should they have their hands on this data? Is that a problem? What's your take? How do we solve that?
I mean, you heard your prior guests referring a lot to ultimately sort of sovereignty, and it's an issue for Europe, it's an issue for Asia, and for the US. And so the open source versus commercial model, frontier model question right now is being thought about purely through the lens of security. But actually, to your point, it's very much about sovereignty and governance ownership over time. I would argue that actually the difference over time between the performance of those models will be negligible. The real risk will be an enterprise or an institution, government, otherwise federal, et cetera, allowing that information to flow into agent services, data infrastructure that's owned by a third party or exists in non-sovereign territory, creates a real governance question for organizations. So the real challenge a business is trying to navigate there is selecting model providers and tooling and infrastructure that sits within an environment that it is governable and sovereign to its organization. Right?
Yeah. And it's funny, the trend line suggests mass adoption potentially on the enterprise side for open source models because it makes more economical sense. You don't need an Atlas level or a Mythos level or a Fable level model, summarizing your all hands meeting, right, and giving you 5 bullet points. It makes sense to go for maybe lower capabilities. It's more economically viable for the company. But we did just see sort of like OpenAI drastically reduce prices for some of their models. They had to respond to that news and that trending stuff. This seems to be their response. But your take is further down the line. It would just be everyone's on open source, and I think I align with you as well. I think there's no reason why that can't be a thing.
I mean, if you look at the direction of travel, most infrastructure, we look at cloud infrastructure to parallel over the last 2 decades. Most of what we buy as commercially available cloud infrastructure, it was open source in one form or another. Whether you're using sort of databases, data warehouses, data lakes, they're all built on some kind of open source. We've had this sort of rush to adopt AI. It makes sense. We all want to use the most performance, the highest quality, the best precision, et cetera. But increasingly, to your point, Ronan, those are becoming commoditized, right? We're looking for smaller, more efficient models that are very good at a specific task. Open source could be very good at that. Then the question is, how well can I constrain and control that open source so I don't end up in a situation whereby I have data that leaks to a market that I can't control it, or into a system that I don't have governance capability over. And that's the goal of harnessing those, is to ensure actually that our data is safe. It's back to the point that a model in isolation isn't dangerous. A model mixed with your data becomes a real risk.
Sure. Yeah. So then what happens with, we referenced it on yesterday's show, an interview with Jensen Huang and Axios, I think, where he was saying, proprietary models and closed models they're needed. They are still, needed. Where do you think they're going to go then? Do you think, they will not just be needed in the future, and you think everything will move towards open weight? What does that kind of future look like between open weight, closed weight?
Good question. Yeah, good question. Look, I definitely think there will always be demand for commercial models that are tuned to particular purposes. I think what we've seen right now is a sort of winner takes all moment, like the land grab that happens in the early stages of a nascent industry, right? And that is expected. We'll increasingly see specialization, we'll see competition, we'll see some consolidation. You already see that in what I would call like the feature, like the venture-backed feature startups that exist in AI over the last 3 years. And most of the large frontier models service those capabilities now. So that consolidation is already happening. Yeah. You'll now get some disintermediation, a mix of open source for technically proficient businesses. And I think more legacy enterprise institutions will probably adopt the paid solutions that they can service with the capability on top of it, right?
Yeah, I'm interested to get your take on the kind of wider, growth in kind of consumer, but then also like just general use of AI and kind of getting into healthcare, manufacturing, kind of more standard populations instead of like just us in this tech bubble. Do you feel like open weights have a better opportunity to kind of dissolve into normal life per se, and closed weights aren't kind of doing the job there?
It's a great question. I mean, if you look at Alex Karps from Palantir, his recent musings on this, he definitely believes that the large frontier models are largely commoditized, and actually the goal really will be to tune the quality and context of the data that goes into those to reduce the cost, right? The token consumption cost, and the control over what you do with your information. I think your point there, like looking at industries adjacent to ours, whether it's healthcare or other. If you look in the UK as an example, the National Health Service has been trying to deploy and solve data analytics problems at scale for over a decade. They released a report this week that indicates that hasn't been super effective despite the tremendous investment with Palantir.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a reckoning coming for that kind of tooling already. And I think a combination will be commercial efficiency born out of the cost benefit of using the open source versus paid, and also the ability to control that as a business or internalize the sovereign capability of that.
Yeah, have your own, almost like company-wide private, model that everyone can kind of tap into, build on top of everything else. Like, you own that. You're a sovereign.
Isn't that the intellectual property of every business, right? That is what every business is built upon. Ultimately, its shareholder value is in its IP, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Really cool.
Super interesting conversation.
That is, we are at time, unfortunately, Cillian. But thank you so much for joining us. Been a pleasure to chat. And sounds like you guys are ripping.
Yeah, congrats on the news as well. Of course.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Cheers,
Cillian. Have a good one.
Take care. Thank you.
Good stuff. Before we have our next guest on,
coming
Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com. We are bringing in our next guest, who is live in the arena.
It's Double O Hallas. Another round of applause for Double O Hallas. Let's get him. Let's get him on set. Here he is. How are you? Good to finally meet you in person.
Oh wait, we need a chair. First
time we've met in person. I think so. Been on the show 3 times. This will be the 3rd.
How embarrassing! We've never met you in person.
Absolute pleasure.
Here's the mic. Your new mic.
Do you know what? I came in through the adoring throngs of paparazzi outside. It's a pleasure to be here.
They're often positioned outside, trying to catch who's coming in.
Yeah, that's the thing. What the audience needs to know is, like, you can't see, is there's a huge crowd back there.
Yeah.
And also Luke's wearing fucking diabolical Havaianas as well. That's the
You can't say that. It's the beauty of showbiz. It's the beauty of showbiz. I'm wearing $1 million outfit until you get to
I'm
the
not
shoes.
wearing any socks actually as well, which isn't
shocking
good.
today. But anyway.
Dom, welcome to the arena. Welcome to the show.
Thanks
So
for
good to
having us.
host you in person. A lot's changed since we last spoke. For us, we have this lovely space now. We can host beautiful stuff in person, which we're pumped about. And we put the guest announcement out today. Double O Hallas is back. The people love it. We had to give them what they want. But why don't we get into like why we're here, what we're going to talk about. We spoke offline quite a lot of trending topics right now. Open weights, UK Gov. We spoke to Minister Kanishka yesterday. It's always good to see him. But maybe let's start just straight from the top. I'd love to get a high level view. AI politics right now, I feel like it's starting to be strategically used, especially in the US. Let temperature check. UK, Europe, the US, where are we at?
Well, I mean, you kind of have to start with what's happening in the US, right? Because it's all ultimately
It's all
downstream
connected.
of that. There's just been this huge response to what's happening in terms of Chinese open source models and capability. So there's a big letter that came out last week that Jensen put out his first tweet on and all that sort of stuff. And, obviously you saw this fascinating dynamic of everyone signing it except certain people that are quite obvious. And then everyone, I always think it's funny, the dynamics between companies where it's like, Google then sign on, but actually it's quite clear who's actually missing from the letter. It's like, Anthropic guys. And so you kind of had that dynamic developing. And today, actually, there's a meeting at the White House a little bit later today, is my understanding.
I saw,
based on some conversation I had with someone who's going to be there this morning. Like, there's sort of this weird question of, so they've been debating a bunch of policy options. So the big shift has been that, like, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, Susie Wiles, the Chief of Staff, and Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, have kind of taken this movement that's pushed towards a more regulatory approach on AI, away from your David Saxes and like Shahram, who used to run Andreessen's office here, who was in the White House doing AI as well. And they've sort of been pushed aside a little bit, and like Shahram's left actually. And so it's kind of like, oh, what's a more regulatory approach looking like? And they're working out the answer, right? So they're getting companies in now to talk about, pre-release testing and all the sort of stuff that the kind of was a debate we were having 2 years ago, to be honest, then it's now coming back. And because of that, you're then like, okay, well, what does that mean for everyone else, right? And, the answer is the UK, and you probably got a little bit of this from Kanishka yesterday, is, for want of a better phrase, monitoring the situation, right? And working out where we need to be. But Europe, in classic Europe way, and we could probably talk about that as well, is just doing the thing like completely oblivious to everything else that's going in the world.
The blinders are on.
Europe is Europing, and so there'll be some stuff that they've got coming out, and obviously it's all sort of set up. But yeah, so it's sort of craziness basically.
Okay, first question, like when the US is starting to regulate, that for me is like a...
that's the red flag.
Yeah, that's a message that
what is it? But you're saying that's like, oh God, it's bad, or is it, oh God,
I think a bit of both, more like, oh God, like how mad is this thing?
Right.
But also like, yeah, well, maybe like it's acceptable to regulate now. It's kind of like a consensus, group consensus. Like we've got a lot of, a lot of slack in the past for like the regulators. EU and I actually need to talk about that as well. Why do you think regulation is now kicking off in the US?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, so and it's sort of the same thing that I think is fascinating about the developments in the UK and Kanishka's new role not being at DSIT as it was, that's been abolished, as being in the Cabinet Office and DBIST, but close to the centre. And I think part of it is this change towards treating, there's kind of these economic questions when it comes to AI and how do we expand it and get adoption right. And then there's the security questions. And one of the things about government and the way governments work is they almost bracket those buckets in terms of policy into two. So you have the kind of people who think about how you grow the economy and what's going on, and then you have like the deep state, basically, who do the spooks and stuff. and I think that the honest answer is you can see that shift happening in the context of the US, where it's like a more security conscious approach. But again, all of this is downstream of the geopolitics in China, right? So that's really where it's coming from. It's like, oh God, China's going to have these capabilities, or bad actors are going to have these capabilities, and they can have huge impacts on our economy and society that we can't control. What does that mean? And then where do you draw an appropriate line in terms of testing or whatever? And for what it's worth, like if you look at what the UK has done with the AI Security Institute, they've done a version of that that's sort of as far as you can appropriately build capability and understand stuff, and therefore be flexible whilst not being like, let's regulate, right? And I think that seems like a sensible approach to me. And then when there's an appropriate moments to step in, and Kanishka, I'm sure, talked about this, but okay, we thought that the deep fakes on Grok were over the line. We're going to sort of cramp down quickly because we've got the capability and understanding of that stuff. So it's clearly coming from that place. But I also think the much, much bigger picture in the kind of American politics scene is if you look at the polling on like data center construction, like the public in the US are much more anti-data center construction than they were.
Hugely
25, 30% difference. It's much more of a kind of public discourse now, even some of the, like in a cross-party way that's really unusual in the US, right? So you have DeSantis on the right in Florida saying that they want to bring in some new laws to basically like restrict data center construction. You also have like Hochul in New York like doing the same thing. So it's like in the discourse now of like how do we push back on this stuff, and that's clearly flowing around as well, right?
Does that mean so? Let's look at adoption, right? Where does where does the US differ in terms of adoption to the UK? Because obviously Kanishka's new role, he said to us that the Prime Minister wants him sat at the table every single week with everyone else in the cabinet. So he can add value with education, healthcare, et cetera, right? Which is great, really, really good, and directly affects adoption. Like from the grassroots level as well. How does that differ, that kind of strategy, which I think is the right thing to do, moving in the right direction for sure. How does that differ to the US and how they're dealing with it? Because, general consensus of AI out of our bubble that we sit in pretty much every day, like it's not good.
It's like, what does it mean? Oh, God.
Globally bad.
So there was an amazing, I remember when Matt Clifford was doing actually it was when he was doing the safety summit before he did the sort of prime ministerial role, like with Kieran, the one he was doing with Rishi. And he always told the story of at the time when they polled the public on what were the great uses for AI, the one thing that polled well was using AI to like find benefit cheats. That was the only thing that polled positively. So every other use, they were like, why would you do that? Like it was like crazy. I think the big difference, like, look, so one of the big differences between UK and European economies in general and the US is, the US much more willing to kind of do a thing, fix the problems later.
Sure.
Right? Like,
do you think that's the right approach?
Yeah, well, so I think it really varies on exactly what the thing is.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
It's like, but generally speaking, like permissionlessness is really important, right?
Yeah.
I'm writing a big piece at the moment on like the Industrial Revolution in the north of England because we're trying to sort of sell in these ideas to Andy Burnham. And one of the things that's really interesting, if you look at the history of Manchester as a place, is like they sort of made all these amazing changes like through their economy. There was huge kind of industrial change that was really brutal for people. And then they almost like fixed the social stuff later, right? So all these social movements came out of that place after the economic growth happened, right? So the point is you had to have the growth for the other stuff to happen, right? Sure. But like, like you actually sort of experience that thing of like this huge shift happens and then actually we're like, okay, now we've got the money to solve these problems.
What happens in the window then? So what happens when the growth is happening? Does that kind of like...
It depends how it's spread, right?
Any,
the answer is like, I mean, in the case of Manchester, right? Like, Engels of like Marx and Engels fame, like went there and wrote about how like horrible this fucking place was. Like, it was like literally, that's like, there's a whole like treatise on like, oh, this is like really horrific. Right?
Where I'm from, by the way.
It's exactly the same today, mate. But then it's really fascinating. So my favorite building in the UK is actually like a Waterstones in Bradford, right? And it's amazing. And if you go there, I'm from Yorkshire, but if you go there, basically it's this old like wool exchange trading hall. And it's the most beautiful building ever. They built it for the wool exchange in the 19th century. It's incredible, right? It's like absolutely stunning. And it's this giant statue of Cobden, who was like a famous free trader at the time and like was a big driver of that stuff. And they said they got in a guy called Ruskin, who was like one of the sort of thoughtful capitalists, to come in and kind of bless the building on approach. And he was famously like, he was just like, well, I can't bless it because you don't believe in anything. All you believe in is like excess. Right? And it's like, and I think that like, the honest answer is like, on the one hand, like, it was kind of true and they all accepted it and they have him involved still or whatever. But it was like, cool, we got to have the excess and then we can fix the problem.
Sure.
And so that's been the kind of, the US approach for a long time was traditionally the UK approach. I think the interesting thing about the UK and Europe now is actually so much the adoption problem, to get back to the actual practical thing, as opposed to chatting about the Industrial Revolution, is like that customers themselves are slow adopters, right? So like European corporates, British corporates, you go talk to the FTSE 100 about AI. It's a hard slog, right? It's a hard slog. Whereas US companies tend to move much faster. And that's why you see, the model for a lot of the companies and founders you have on is, product and tech in Europe, sales and go-to-market in the United States, because they can bash out the sales much quicker and they can make progress quicker. And so in some ways, that's the thing that will move the needle or not, and we have to see that happen, right? Like that's where actually the bridges need to be built.
Yeah, I mean, we right at the beginning of starting the show, we had this conversation a lot, like about the integration into corporates in Europe.
Right.
I haven't had that conversation for a while, and nothing's really changed.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Like,
you'd think it might.
But I think what's fascinating is like if you look at Mistral's a really good example of the pros and cons of this, right?
Sure.
So the French government have a much more French approach to industrial policy, which is like they're going to lean in, they're going to forcibly like change stuff and like tough shit if you don't like it. And with Mistral, like a lot of what they've done is sort of force-fed the CAC 40 companies, the French exchange companies. They've basically foie gras like Mistral products into them, right? It's like tough shit. You've kind of got to take it. And like on the one hand, if you look therefore at what Mistral's doing as a business, it's doing much better.
Yeah.
But the trade-off of that is like, what's the old adage in startup world is like, bad customers make bad businesses. Yeah. Like, and actually there's a bit of a problem of like, if your customers don't want frontier capabilities and you're not driving at that stuff, are you building frontier capabilities?
Sure.
Yeah. And so I don't think there's a right answer to that. Like sometimes it's important, you can sell stuff that's like mass market sort of technologies and do very well out of it. But obviously, like that's a challenge for trying to build capabilities that can continue to compete, basically.
Yeah, and that's not even like product market fit. That's just like government enforced usage of products. Like, it's like,
hey, it sounds great to me right now. I don't know why. What can
I love that. Give me more of that. Slightly moving a little bit off course, and it's kind of going back to the start of the conversation. I been speaking with like Sam Hogg quite a lot recently. Like, at Disco Diplomacy, great friend of ours now, and he's thankfully a fan of the show. I find his space fascinating. Like he's like literally just is like focused on staying within the vertical between the relations of like UK, AI, and China for quite a while, and the geopolitics associated with that. And he's a great like geotectonics. I love that phrase. And I'm starting to think, I'm starting to find that space even more fascinating, and it's kind of emerging in front of us right now. This like strategic game theory, political layer that we're putting over, that's only connected to AI. Like we're not seeing that in B2B SaaS or like anything like that. It's only AI and it's only frontier models. And I wanted to ask you, like, is there like a new role emerging out of this stuff? It's kind of like this, I don't even know what I'd call it. Like a AI.
Soothsayer. Yeah, it's interesting, right?
The polymath, the AI polymath. It's kind of like floating around.
Well, I mean, I think so. If you look at the companies themselves, like if you look at the big American tech companies, right? Often the person who runs kind of policy for them, they don't talk about them in terms of public policy, like, you know, so Kent Walker at Google or Nick Clegg when he was at Meta, they call them like president of global affairs. It's like, and it is actually much more a kind of and if you look at the way governments are responding to those companies now, increasingly, you know, we have like a tech envoy in Silicon Valley, the EU has the same now, right? And it's actually treating it much more like a kind of diplomatic relationship. So clearly I think there's an element of that, and that's totally rational, right? Like actually these are like really significant actors, you know. Like
they're like sovereign states, right?
Yeah, well, and like if you look at like the R&D spend of these companies, it's like much larger than nation states, right? And it's like, you know, like just it's gigantic. And so clearly like that has really material impacts. I think that the challenge of doing that stuff is just as hard as doing actual diplomacy though, right? Like as in, you know, I mean the best book on the kind of the story of what you're describing in the past few years is Apple in China. I don't know if you guys have read it, but it's incredible, right? And it's basically all about Apple's entry into China from a kind of manufacturing point of view, and like how now their manufacturing supply chain is all kind of, it's incredible book. And so much of the story of it is ultimately like, how do you balance this relationship with a government where, you know, the nature of kind of rules are less well defined than it is in some other places. So the point is, in operating in the UK, rules are very clearly written, and then either you comply or you don't. If you don't comply, there are things that ostensibly will happen to you. In China, the way it works is they write rules that are intentionally vague, right? Because the point is not for you to comply with the rules, the point is for you to comply with them. Right? So when they come in, they're like, you're breaking the rules, you have to go, okay, well, what do you need us to do to comply? They say, we want you to do X, Y, Z, which can be whatever they want. Right? That's the theory of how it works. And obviously maintaining a relationship and working with companies in that setting is different, right? And I always come back to, this is probably like 5-6 years ago, I was giving a talk on policy. I was out in a Middle Eastern tech conference, right? So it was in Egypt, like this gigantic thing. I remember being very depressed because they had the chief business officer of Uber on before, and he gave a talk about how he would climbed Everest. And then he was like, right, next up's Dom. I was like, cheers. Absolutely outrageous. But I went on to talk about how you
Everest mog.
Oh no, honestly, I got absolutely, it was brutal. Right? I was like, absolutely hung me out to dry. And I did my little bit about why policy mattered to like a bored audience, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like, and then one guy put his hand up at the end, and he was just like, and I have a question, what do you do if the government minister just like asks for a bribe, right? And you're like, yeah, do you know what, that is a very different setting, and I don't have it's like, don't have a great answer for that, right? And it just goes to, you know, exactly.
It's game over.
But it just goes to show, right?
Checkmate.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so different, these dynamics. Like I did some time in Brussels earlier in my career, and I did 2 years in India as well. Yeah. And just working with these governments is different, right? And so of course you have to understand what that means. You know, whoever's good at it is helpful. Right?
Connected to that, a perfect segue. I know we've got like
15 minutes. We're good.
Oh, really? Oh, we've got ages. Nice. Ages. Let's go. We can spend a lot of time on this one then. Governments nationalizing labs.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel we have to eventually see this.
Yeah.
I just can't help because like the potential, as we're not even moving into a grey area, we're moving into like a completely it's like a black abyss, but which I'm excited about, that black abyss. I'm going to go in there jollily and I'm going to be a big thumbs up. I'm like, I'm in the abyss and I'm happy. Yeah. But it's not a grey area. It's a complete unprecedented, unknown time of the world. A very, very powerful time, which will, you know, create very, very powerful things, very, very, very powerful technology. And no one really knows yet if it's going to be like really great or like these are really powerful. And now we've mentioned on the show before, like a Skynet type thing comes around. I feel that governments maybe have to step in if that is the case. If there is harm to citizens.
What does it mean to step in, right? I guess, I understand. Look, I think it's really interesting. I think, so first of all, it's very easy in the context of the past 30 years that we would, mostly experience. I don't know how old you are. I'm 34, right? So my whole life has been kind of post-Cold War, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think that in that world, we have the economy structured how we have it structured, right? But go back to, the Attlee government post-1945. Like, you had not just like the national industries that we all know, like, they nationalized coal, or the whole of the road haulage industry was nationalized, right?
Yeah.
Every trucker in the country worked for the government, right? Do you know, and so you had these extraordinary, a very different economy.
Yeah.
I think that the main difference, and I think this is the challenge, like now, I certainly wouldn't want to go back to those days. I think one of the big differences and one of the challenges for government around, technology versus, say, defense, where, like I said, it's much more is that whilst the frontier capabilities are clearly really important for strategic reasons, the reality is that it takes an ecosystem approach to succeed in a way that I think is sometimes a little bit different in the way, there is no ecosystem around defense in quite the same way. They're getting there now precisely because technology is so important, but traditionally, you wanted to restrict sale of guns, right? It was important the state had a monopoly over, over violence, right? That's an important part of, whereas actually the idea of the state having a monopoly over innovation or over sort of frontier capabilities when it comes to technology is really hard, because actually how do you allow the rest of the economy to be productive or compete, or, it becomes really, where do you draw the line of that? So there was a few years ago, the British government had a big process, and it was a law called the National Security and Investment Act. It's in power now, and what it does is it's similar to the CFIUS regime in the US, where basically if you're building a super frontier capability and a Chinese or they don't actually say Chinese, what they say is hostile states or something, but they mean China. Comes and tries to buy you, a Chinese investment fund, right? The state can step in and be like, no.
Sure.
They would review the deal and they would be like, no. And one of the really fascinating challenges of that is how do you draw the line of what technologies can be used in that way, right? So it had a quite broad definition of AI, and I think that's really difficult because you could have these dual-use technologies that they could be used in lots of ways. So the example that I always come back to is there was a sonar-based AI tech thing that was used for commercial fishing. So it could find fish underwater really well, like the shoals of fish, and then it'd be cool, we need to fish there, right? But also, presumably that would be quite useful for defense, right? It's one of those things of but it was, I remember meeting the founder, and this lad was just cracking on with fishing. And he was not there being you know what I mean? And the same is that I had a very similar one, bizarrely, I don't know why it's all agriculture related, but there's another one where this guy had built something that was facial recognition for chicken welfare. So basically, you put the cameras in the giant barns where you farm chickens, right? Obviously, there's 1 million chickens in this thing, and what it would do is it would sort of look at the chickens and be like, God, that one's not well or something. So you could take it out because obviously once it gets ill, the problem will be exactly. And now again, that kind of technology of we can analyze all this stuff and then can have profound security effects. But what you're supposed to do, just not the farmer can't. How does that work?
Well,
so that's the challenge.
That was what the CEO of Axel Springer was saying, right? It's he used the analogy of a knife and was you can cut some fruit with a knife or you can go and kill someone. I'm not going to go ban knives.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing is we've had, there are other debates, one of Kanishka's sort of previous job before he was moved into the cabinet now was AI and online safety. And we've had these debates over online safety and freedom of expression for a very long time, right? Literally hundreds of years. And so, then there's no, you don't ban pieces of paper because people can write offensive things with them. But at the same time, you do ban expression somewhere or, you restrict expression somewhere in the context of Europe, certainly. In the US, it's a little bit different. But so there are lines that we draw, and it's hard questions where, as societies, we kind of have to debate them and come to a right answer. But we'll see what happens.
And it's scary in a way. Whenever I hear the words nationalising or government involvement, typically that for me would be a counter frequency to innovation in a way. So
when are you getting nationalised? Basically, this is going to be the North Korean news.
No way.
Do you know what I mean? It's just
we're staying private.
We'll sell to China.
You won't get away with those shoes on National Korean television.
When we sell to China, you'll know there'll be signs here. There'll be signs. We've covered it a little bit here and throughout, but just the open source, closed sort of debates are happening right now. We saw some news the other day that kind of took over the timeline. The mathematics breakthroughs that one of OpenAI's models they released, Atlas, had basically solved 10 of the hardest math problems of all time. Incredibly exciting to see that kind of stuff. Potentially, those tests had been, I'm not knocking the achievement, but all internal resources had been fine-tuned into like working out these specific things? Is it like, is that intelligence? Is that reasoning? Or is that just a well-concentrated effort of resources using like what we have today? That stuff really excites me. So I'm just like, can we just not at all slow down in that? I don't want to give up the, like, my mind thinking, okay, let's apply these type of discoveries to like biological stuff or chemistry. And it's starting to become, well, maybe it's not like a non-zero chance, like a cancer cure could emerge out of these insane breakthroughs, right? Totally. So that I'm trying to but open source is important, and I think this is like a slower pace where we need to sort of be aware of the consequences of pushing things too fast, and we saw the pacing the frontier stuff come out. How do we balance these two things? Because that's incredibly exciting, and I want all of that. But also, like, you know, it's tough to do that.
We just had a conversation with the founder of Ethyca, who you know was very for the fact that open weight will just own a lot of the market. And yes, there's a place for closed weight, but it will be the majority open weight models eventually because of the you know the kind of almost like making these models, you know, you can make money off them, or you can decide which one's going to be cheaper and all this kind of stuff, right? It's like the commercialization of them. Open weights are in favor of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, who knows, right? Like, at the end of the day, I think, you know, if I could predict the market futures, lads, I would be happily...
Text me when you know.
Exactly. You know, our friends at Polymarket will help, I'm sure. No. But the
world's largest prediction market, stay informed in proper current knowledge.
I do the pictures for you. I know how, it's fine.
Let's do a live... can you hear the Polymarket? We'll just hit it live.
There you go.
Let's go.
But I'll do the ad reads for you, lads, it's fine. But no, like, look, of course we don't know, right? There's no kind of way of predicting this stuff. I think
of course.
What's interesting is just that, you know, increasingly, and it's going to become much more of a negotiation, right? And that the politics and public consent and all this stuff will matter. And actually, as an industry, and I certainly think about this a lot from a kind of startup ecosystem perspective, like one of the stories that we've consistently told to politicians in the UK over the course of, you know, the 15 years that Startup Coalition's existed, certainly the 8.5 years that I've run it, is everything's moving up and to the right? You're seeing this growth journey. It's so amazing. It's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But one of the challenges with that is, like, that's not going to be sufficient, right? Do you know what I mean? That's not going to be sufficient in a world that's changing so quickly and, you know, having security concerns and all this stuff. You can't just be like, well, we're going to build it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Like, because people, and even happening now, if you look at the way Andy Burnham is talking about growth, like, it's good growth in every postcode, or like, how are people seeing it? Like, what does that mean?
AI
and that's
can't
like
build a train.
Exactly, and that's the growth side of this, right? But, you know, like I said, you sort of get that the same on the security side. But what I would say, and this is kind of bringing it back to what I was saying earlier about the Industrial Revolution, it was the same stories, right? You know, the sort of widely accepted one of the best novels in the English language is Middlemarch, and it's basically all about, like, a train coming to a place and, like, what it could mean for that society, right? And so we've had these debates before, and we've found, like, muddled ways through them. I do think that the reality, and I think sometimes to your point, like, it's like, or, you know, how do we find an answer? The answer is there'll be fights and tension and debates over it, right? Like, you know, during that period in Manchester, you had the suffragettes founded who said, actually, no, we want to have rights and voting rights for women. You had, like, Marxists come and be like, oh, we need to restructure this. You had kind of unions created and the basis of the Independent Labour Party. So you kind of see all these things developing over time. And at the same time, you had, you know, at that moment in time, the thing that you know, to go back to my proud Yorkshire roots, you know, if you go to Saltaire, I don't know if you guys have ever been, but it's absolutely incredible, right? It's like a World Heritage Site, beautiful factory built by Sir Titus Salt, right? Who was like I've
been there on a school trip. I've been there.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, it's incredible place, beautiful place, like stunning.
It is nice.
And again, it was like, basically, he'd had his factory in Bradford, which at the time was called Worstedopolis, because it was like there were so many kind of wool manufacturers. But he was like, it's a bit crap and dirty here. I'm going to move this out and I'm going to build all the houses around it for my workers, because it'll be nicer life and they'll all work here and they'll do better.
Yeah.
And so you kind of naturally have these changes and fights and, like, balance it out. It's just, for us as the sector kind of pushing the boundaries of that, it's being able to continue to tell stories of the value and help to sort of take the public, but also politicians, on the journey of what it means, right? As opposed to them reading the runes of politics and being like, stop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, because actually the biggest risk, I think, sometimes is shaving the edges off success and kind of creating not a $10 billion company, but a $7 billion company. Now, because the problem with that in some ways is that the public is still upset with the $7 billion company. Do you know what I mean? You've not improved their lives.
The narrative is still the same.
As in, the narrative's still the same. All of the issues are still persisting,
Sure.
except you haven't broken through to the point at which you can make this thing. And I think that's one of the biggest risks we have, is not that we all want to see this growth and change, and it's probably going to happen. But actually, if we're there trying to like be like, no, it's like, what's you actually have to, don't try and like pretend you can stop the train a little bit here. Actually, what we have to do is work out how to like direct the train in the right direction.
Would you say the kind of it's affecting every little bit of life, AI, right? Kind of dissolving into everything. Would you say I guess like the railway revolution or the industrial revolution? Because like I feel like, say like the railway revolution, a lot more concentrated in terms of, as you mentioned, right? If you bring a train to into a village,
it's infrastructure.
That is,
one
thing,
thing,
you know exactly what's going to happen in that village, right? Yeah. AI is kind of everywhere. Obviously, there's differences there. Can we pull anything from history like that and use that as like navigating this whole situation that we're in at the moment?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's so. There's a few different things. I think first of all, it's amazing. I think it was the New York Times did a stat of like they were showing the capital investment in the US at the moment into AI versus relative capital investment booms at other times. I don't know if you saw this chart, but it was extraordinary, and it was literally it's like 8x what the railways were, right? And then and the railways were extraordinary.
That was a few days ago, right?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when I saw it, but it was like absolutely staggering. And obviously these things are massive, right? It's just like a gigantic change. Like I said, I think that there's sort of a few things that we can try and learn and understand. Like first of all, one of the things that did happen during the Industrial Revolution is it took a period of time before the benefits and the effects were felt. And I think we kind of have to prepare for some of that. And like we're probably experiencing a little bit of that backlash at the moment, which is like, oh great, it creates slop, blah, blah, blah. But we haven't seen and like, again, that's contingent on us, I think, to tell that story more effectively and actually show the value of it, frankly. Like, as in, it's like, because, I love slop as much as the next person, but like, and it's interesting seeing the companies actually try and tell more of those stories as opposed to, do you remember when, what do they call the OpenAI thing where it was just basically like slop videos on loop? Do you know what I mean? Do you remember?
Yeah. And the app that was just slop.
And Meta did the same thing, right? And then they they virtually killed it within like 3 weeks, right? It was just like, but there was a period of that, and then now it's like, oh god, we can't talk about that, right? And so we're gonna have to kind of find ways of doing it better. But again, I think that the important thing is, and this is what happened in the past, and it's almost the bigger picture version of this is, you can have all of these conversations and you can shape your economy and society in different directions, but you have to have resource to be able to do that, right? And so there is, actually the biggest kind of risk here is that, and it's a challenge that we faced in the UK and in Europe more widely for this last sort of 20 years, is that people feel like they have to scrap more and more for resources between themselves because they feel like the pie is either the same size or shrinking. Right, so it's actually just like, no, we have to like fight over that pie, as opposed to like, we are growing the pie, and therefore the distribution of that pie like can be much more wide and much more effective. And I think that's what it comes back to, is like ultimately like, are we growing the pie? And if we are, then of course you're going to have debates about how it can be distributed more effectively. Like, and data center construction is a great example of this, right? Like, actually, there is 100% a chance that if you look at the stats on how much tax revenue these US data center companies pay. So like one of the examples is in Wisconsin. Like Microsoft was paying like $20 million a year in property taxes to this one town of like 20,000 people or whatever, right? Because this data center was basically just like gigantic and it was like really valuable. And like in the UK, for example, we don't have fiscal devolution where any towns will benefit from that at the moment. Now, to be fair, that's kind of what Andy Burnham's looking at, is like, can we devolve tax revenues down, or like, will there be incentives for people to actually build stuff because they'll see the benefit of it as opposed to it going into central government somewhere and popping out at the end. But clearly, even within that framework, to some extent, you kind of have to like bribe some of these people to allow this stuff to be built, right? Isn't it? It's just like, how do we give and take that? So I think that obviously there's going to be conversations about it, but to have that conversation, you have to have some money, right? It's like, so how are we going to make sure we have that too?
Yeah. That's really the pie thing is just right. Yeah, we need to build the pie. Yeah, just like share that around. We are at time. We're 1 minute over, unfortunately. This has been amazing, dude. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Welcome back anytime.
Appreciate it. Enjoy.
Mate.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Good to see you, sir.
Yeah, you too.
So good to meet you properly as
well. Yeah, likewise.
Dom Hallas, ladies and gentlemen.
Good to see you.
Bring that down. Takeaway, grow that pie. We need to grow it. We'll be bringing our next guest into the show very, very shortly. If we just rejig the setup back to the
Hex, the AI analytics platform where trust meets insight. Hex helps teams of all sizes by giving teammates the ability to get insights from their data wherever they work. Go to hex.tech. I think that was a great conversation.
It was. Thank you, Dom.
Thoroughly enjoyed.
See you later, Dom.
We'll see you soon,
Cheers,
dude.
sir. Have a good one.
We love it.
Yes, indeed. We can bring our next guest in. I think they're coming into the studio live onto the screen as we speak. We have Anu, writer of Working Theories, onto the show. Anu, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Good. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're
doing
very good.
We're doing very good. How are things? Is it morning over there?
It is just past 9 Eastern.
Oh, okay.
Amazing.
Not too early.
York
Usually
City.
we're a little bit worried that we've
You're on the
ruined
East
someone's
Coast.
day.
Yeah, I assume.
I'm in New York City. Shout out
nice.
to Alex on your team, who's been in the DMs with me constantly trying to figure out what's a good time. And also just stalking and saying and writing and being like, you got to come on the show. So shout out to him.
Alex, what a legend. He's a great guy. He was actually on the show today, very briefly. Alex getting a shout out over. He's got a big grin on his face, so it's all happy days.
He's trying to wave to you.
I asked him, I said my impression is that you are producer Ben, but for Europe version, he said I'm something in between producer Dylan. So I think we're still trying to figure out how to map.
That's 100%. That's 100% accurate. Yeah, we were trying to work that out with the TBPN guy as well when we went on. Because we had producer Sam was chatting to producer Ben, and it was fun to see the world's married. But look, enough about that. I'd love to talk about you. I'd love to talk about the topics that you're discussing right now. We've got a bunch of stuff, but it's high-level areas that we'd like to get into first. And selfishly, I have one in particular that I'm very interested in. And maybe we could kick it off with this. We saw a post the other day. Should AI labs have a creative director? And we saw the OpenAI getaway recently where they had some influencers there that were kind of all just, I think they just sat in a garden. It was like really beautifully designed and it all looked very nice. But we're starting to see them tap into influencer marketing, short form media. I'm getting OpenAI stuff on my Instagram feed, and I'm not surprised to see that. But it's a trend towards this creative area. Would love to get your thoughts on it, high level.
Yeah, I think the piece you're referring to is Reggie's. I know Reggie. He's, another writer in the arena who always has good takes, I think, especially at the intersection of kind of creative and tech. So I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'm sure he'll be chatting about his piece a lot. But I think I fundamentally agree with the idea that there is a lack of narrative cohesion kind of inside most of the leading AI labs, and also somewhat across the frontier AI industry as well. And I think the reason that cohesion is so important is because, in a short time, these companies and these labs have gone from, just being something that people inside the tech industry and the Silicon Valley or broader industry know, to being kind of the number one conversation for the general public. In particular, in the United States, there's a lot of, worry not only about jobs that are being taken, but also data centers being planted, in the middle of the country in places that historically maybe wouldn't be so quickly touched by what the coasts are doing and, what's happening in the cities and therefore, what's happening in the frontier of technology. So I think that there's a imperative for the AI labs to be both speaking to what I call the insider audience, which is very much us here, and anybody that kind of like understands the frontier of Silicon Valley or tech or startups and media and kind of all of these like frontier communities, so to speak, and then bridge to the average person who is hearing about this from what I call outsider media, primarily, which are your usual like news programs, like New York Times, newspapers, where there is much more bearish sentiment on a lot of what AI labs are doing and much less of this optimistic take. So I think like AI labs find themselves in a challenging position because they're so big, so fast, and have so many constituencies to talk to. And if you don't have clear narrative ideas and arcs and ways in which you're communicating these, it just becomes really hard. So that's kind of, there's so much to say about it, but I would agree. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. So what do you feel do you feel like there's been a shift in the model kind of makers to be able to do what you're saying, or do you feel like they still need to make that shift? And what do you feel like they need to do more of maybe?
I mean, you guys have seen this, right? They're trying. They're making moves. I think that, just recently, I kind of posted about this, but we're seeing a change in how Sam from OpenAI is going on podcasts and, the style of speaking that he's doing, the points that he's bringing up. I think, even from a couple of years ago to a year ago to now, the conversation around all the jobs are going to be taken because this is a very bullish thing for the technology itself and fundraising and talent and the insider audiences to saying, there will be many jobs. There will be new jobs. There will be a gentle singularity, not a steep cliff where, everything suddenly changes. So I think even in those narrative arcs, you see the change. But then I think you also see the change like in the actual style of communication and the places in which the communication is happening. I don't want to now we're a little bit speculating, right? But I think you can just see an ease in how people are communicating these topics compared to how they were before. There are many reasons why that could be. I know the TBPN guys well, and obviously they're inside OpenAI now, but I don't think they're the only ones. There's been a lot of what I call cultural unicorns that have been hired into OpenAI 100%. In the sense that there are people who both understand something that's a hard skill that we historically have talked about, like product or AI, machine learning, engineering, comms, what have you. But then they also understand culture and they understand how to best translate this. So I think you guys were talking about Pete Steinberger earlier today and maybe what's the state of the product that he's working on. But I would argue that he was hired in at a point where he was clearly a cultural unicorn in this sphere. He both created something, created a community, and then just became a force of nature, bridging inside and outside. So there are a string of people and companies that have been acquired like that. And then I think even just going from very buttoned up PR blog posts to writing his own essays, even writing personal feelings about when there were some safety issues around him and his family, and now going on the Best Insider podcast, which I think is Invest Like the Best. And I think a smart move going on Relentless is kind of supporting the underdog podcaster. We don't have to get too much into the beef inside Silicon Valley, but if you guys know Relentless, they were trying to get Elon Musk on and weren't able to do it. I'm sure he's very busy. I'm sure he's very busy, so I don't fault him for doing it. But I think Sam going on right after is an interesting, just a narrative thing for us who are paying attention as well, to support that underdog that way.
I just love the depth of analysis here because we were literally talking earlier with the Sama thing. I fully see it. It's strategic, and I think
flurry of game theory.
I think it's working. I think it's working very well. We were even saying all the way down, and maybe you were doing this previously. I'm not sure because it is kind of a thing, but non-capitalization at the start of your sentences, being very open with topics he's discussing in terms of bringing in his home life, drunk tweeting on the timeline, or even I wouldn't even be that amiss whether he wasn't even drunk and he was just saying he was, and everyone was I think it could go that deep, but I've got my tinfoil hat on now. But the faux pas of the recent viral post with the just listen to a podcast of your kids instead of and I've never seen a ratio larger than that one. The first comment was it was so awful.
I mean, Twitter will set traps for you. So once if you get a little too comfortable, if you think you're whole, somebody's going to ratio you. So I think, things when it comes to children and parenting and things that I think historically we find to be very human in nature, I think we have to be a little bit careful with talking about how much technology is going to improve those interfaces versus saying that it'll probably stay outside of those interfaces. So I don't know, just small space. But obviously, there's sacred spaces probably, this sounds a little bit too traditional, but I think that probably is true. But largely I think OpenAI has, taken that underdog narrative and now done a really pretty good job with
I agree completely.
So we were talking earlier about and you're a great person to speak to because you can index like over everything that's going on in terms of like the narrative as we're talking about. Anthropic's just surpassed OpenAI's on revenues. We don't really know exactly where like the models are, but we think OpenAI are just in terms of benchmarking models are creeping up above Anthropic. Where do you feel like the biggest leverage point is in this kind of whole race, whether you want to call it that or not? Like, do you think it's narrative? Do you think it's revenues? Do you think it's actually how good the models are? What is the kind of biggest like lever to pull for these guys to actually win the race?
Ooh, brutal, very expensive question. But I think in general, I think there's a lot of things that need to be good enough or great enough, and then there's something on top of that that's going to make you kind of win or continue to stay ahead. So we've seen with like the model releases back and forth, it's almost like a rap battle where you're, like one person goes out, then the next person goes out. And so and there's also just like a sense that nobody's ever really going to be able to maintain that far ahead a position when it comes to the technical aspects. So I think a lot of the actual, like winning components of having the best models is actually having like the best product that comes with that model, and the best GTM in some sense, like Claude originally doing great with developers, right? And then OpenAI having to catch up. Like, I wouldn't say that's probably because OpenAI didn't have as great technical people or technical chops, but they just like weren't thinking about the audience to sell to and the product for that audience as cleanly. And then somebody else went and did it, and they're like, oh, actually that's really important, let's go do it. And actually, I think Sam had talked about it on the podcast recently about like how it was kind of a feat that they caught up. And you do want to say it's a feat, but I also think it's like, because the technology itself, it's not the thing that is a differentiator that you're even able to do that so quickly.
Yeah. Sure.
So I think that'll continue to be true. Obviously, there's a whole conversation about open source. And I think that's just going to become a louder conversation as well, whether it's open source in general or open weights. So all that is to say, I think that a lot of the power comes from the cultural side, and it's going to continue to come from the cultural side. So what does that entail? It entails like having distinct defensible missions and brands, which I think Anthropic already has kind of planted its flag in a certain area. And I think OpenAI has been trying to plant their flag and figure out what exactly they stand for. I think they've made actually quite a leap in the last like 3 to 4 weeks, to be honest. That's obviously from an insider view that'll have to like percolate out to the general
there's lag time.
like audience. Yeah, there's some lag time there, but I think that they're figuring out, and what that is, I think Anthropic's like, we're the safe, thoughtful, philosophical AI creator that wants to safeguard everybody. And I think OpenAI is a bit more like, well, we're for everyone. Intelligence for all, benefits for all. Like,
they're very much down that road, aren't they?
Right.
I have another question. Are you okay if we run over slightly? Do you have to leave straight away?
Yeah, let's
okay,
do it.
Amazing.
Whatever's fun.
Awesome. As we kind of like the topic of the conversation as alluded to, comms are becoming incredibly strategic, and even it's not even just on the company level, but like mainly for the labs, yes, but also in terms like anyone who's really working on AI at the frontier, in quotation marks. I'm including Google and I'm including Meta here. I'm including XAI sometimes. Musk just kind of does his thing over there, but sorry, Space XAI. But like how should these, and I think they should start like consciously thinking of these things, and as I said, Sam's doing a really good job of this, but how should these CEOs today like really be thinking about how they should get their message across? Is it like, you hit all the circuits? Like I saw your tweet about like Travis on A16Z, TBPN, and then obviously Sam on Invest Like the Best and Relentless. Like, should they hit the circuits? Like Travis's comeback did amazing work, but I think a lot of that came from TBPN. And it's kind of like and now it's all like Travis is back, and it's like that's a motto now, Like, and they've done a good job coining that and branding it to him. Like that's incredibly powerful. How do you think CEOs should be thinking in this sort of newish media, insidery media type of comms world that we find ourselves? Because like no one's like queuing up at the door to get into TechCrunch anymore. That's just not a thing. Like, or no one's queuing up at the door to get into another historical article. But yeah, would curious to hear your thoughts.
I think, Travis is such a unique, person with such a unique story. He's a larger than life character, so I'm not sure I would make him the comp for everybody. But I think I give credit to A16Z for doing a good job like relaunching with the fundraising with him,
100%. Yeah.
and making that a big part of their story as well. And obviously TBPN is great. Like, the Travis on TBPN is a very like guard down, hanging with the boys, let's talk about the jet ski, like completely different vibe, which I think appeals to a little bit of the less buttoned up entrepreneur. It's a little like back to days of yore, like where we're gritty and where we just take risks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think he's like also just a really unique persona. So I think one of the things is like you can't apply the same framework to everybody. Like there almost needs to be, we talked about this creative director like analogy. I almost feel like there's like an A&R analogy when it comes to music, where you have to develop the artist into what they're best at doing.
Yeah.
So maybe they're great at speaking extemporaneously and going on these talk shows, and if so, they should be doing that. Maybe they're great at writing longer form, and like I think Dario has more successfully done more of that in terms of writing these like expansive theses and embodying those. And so I think some of it is like finding your pocket and being like self-aware of those. But in general, yes, I think it is good if you can speak to the constituencies where they are and show that you can have a little bit of like real-time conversation. I think Joe Rogan in the last presidential cycle made this like very obvious. You can't be like hiding behind a bunch of people speaking for you. You need to be able to go out and speak long form and have a dialogue to actually show people, one, that you're human, two, that like the thoughts are actually yours, and three, that you adapt. It's almost like literally being in the arena. Like, can you survive it? So yeah, I think you need to, and I think that I'm not saying outsider media is quote unquote done. Somebody asked me this the other day, like, oh, are you just saying it's only insider media? I don't think that's the case. But I think that if you are, quote, outsider media, it really relies on being very charismatic and having a personality as well now, that people that are insider still want to talk to you and get the value of like that conversation versus just your distribution outlet or someone who's providing legitimacy. So there are so many interesting things there, but I feel like the CEO playbook is like tweet, write a thesis, and then go on some of these insider talk shows. And then share all the clips from all of those, and then start that cycle over again the next time you need to do something.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like if you nail the X stuff now, like it will find its way to the other channels. Like it just naturally will. Like if you have like we've seen it now, and maybe for these guys, like let's take Zuck for example. Like he knows that he could walk into WSJ or like any traditional media article, and they'd let him write an op-ed or a piece. Like they wouldn't,
Well, he did last week, didn't he?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's like
he did that, yeah.
It was a great piece.
And it was a great piece, but like I'm trying to work out, like, does he think he knows that if he, and he did put it on X as well, he wrote his blog, like, and it was like a bit of a, he's back on X type thing again, like similar to like a Jensen thing, well, his first return, but like, do you think they're aware of the fact that they can literally shape a day or 2 days discourse with that blog post? Do you think they know that before they're writing it or not?
Yeah.
I think now they probably
imagine
have learned that they can, but like...
I think now.
Yeah. Because that's a funny thought experiment.
Now they do.
Right?
Yeah, I think Luke was saying it. Now they do. Yeah. But I think it's, especially in this like tech world, there's a lot of thinker CEOs, right? As opposed to like kind of, I don't want to say, like, they're intellectual CEOs, right? A lot of them.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense that a written medium or a more thoughtful medium is a good place to consolidate and share the ideas and then go, speak to those talking points. And I also just think like, I'm a writer for sure. So I think essays and writing is just very powerful still. Every piece that you put out is a prompt for a conversation, to your point. So I do know that when you post an essay like this on Twitter or elsewhere, and especially if you make it counterpositioned, which I think Zuck is taking this, everybody's a little bit like us against Anthropic right now as far as like gated versus ungated, right? So I think was kind of leaning into that as well. And so that let me inject this like prompt into the conversation, into the discourse again, and it probably will take over a day or two of narrative cycles. And, you could do it without that. You could just post a tweet. But I almost think like the more deliberate and packaged that thesis is, the more people are willing to engage with it, even if they don't read it.
Sure.
Because they're just like, this is a prompt that has been put out for us to react to.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like, little like psychology, consumer psychology things there too.
Yeah, because we said when we kind of like reported on it and spoke about the article in the WSJ that Zuck wrote, it's like it almost like feels like he's almost like the voice of reason type thing, kind of coming in to the conversation when everyone else was having this conversation, this discourse, and there was so many. There was so many different opinions flying around, and like it almost like felt that he kind of like made his stamp. And as you're saying, right, it was deliberate. It wasn't just a tweet. It wasn't just an article that he can write on X. It's like, hey, like I'm going to have my op-ed in obviously like a very globally renowned publication, and then go direct as well. Which I thought was like incredibly clever because it did feel, regardless of almost like what he wrote, like before he. When I read the title, it was like it feels like he's putting his stamp as the voice of reason.
Yeah. There's a investor, Yoni, at Slow Ventures, if you guys know Slow Ventures, and he's had this like kind of meme of the only 4 jobs that are going to exist going around based on an essay he wrote. And I think it's like PM/slop cannon / like somebody who's shipping stuff,
Nice.
Back end in terms of like security, infra, like SRE, all of that. Then it's like hot people is the 3rd category, and it's a very broad interpretation of what hot is. And then the 4th category is like the adult in the room, basically. So I, kind of reminded me of what you were saying about, Zuck's been in this industry a generation before all of the new kind of like upstarts, right? So he has like the need to stay relevant, but also to be like, I'm the grown up in the room a bit.
Yeah,
and so
true.
Kind of like leaning in to that as well. And so, there's so many different archetypes. You could like make this Greek or whatever mythology you want to, but I think it's very, very interesting from that perspective.
Yeah. I saw.
What
Atlas,
about you guys though? Like, I'm curious.
Sorry, go on. You go.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say I'm curious, like what your experience is too, especially being in like Europe versus America, and like who's trying to come on shows and how they're going about like thinking about their press tours or their comms spots.
It's radically different. Radically different. It's starting to change a little bit. Like you probably saw the LVMH founder recently do his like viral goes direct post about his responding to Le Monde, which was brilliant to see. But I think Europe has traditionally not really been too great at like patting itself on the back, I think. And I'm not just talking about tech, I'm talking about like every single industry there is. Like I think that we need to learn, there's some really great lessons that we can learn from the US in terms of like, hey, like learn how to celebrate your wins and don't worry about being completely constrained by these PR ropes that are tied around you. Because ultimately, like, what if you're looking for distribution, what will go viral is you being authentic and saying some like interesting things that are your own thoughts, as opposed to saying like,
PR.
Hey, this is
stuff.
my new I built a single source of truth for the HR blah. Like, okay, it's more the trend is like you shouldn't just be informing people of like factual information. It's like have a hot take or like have an authentic thought.
It's just to have some personality, right? Which is why the live shows is a huge thing, and I think why TBPN culturally won, and like what we're trying to do in Europe, because Europe, I think over in the US, you guys are like focused and the blinkers are on. There almost like is less attention to Europe, and that's absolutely fine. And I think it kind of should be like that. Whereas Europe, I think, looks over its shoulder at the US almost like too much. And I think it's go and build and go and do your thing. And I think we see our place in the ecosystem as like that narrative distributor to allow people to kind of just say things and get other people watching straight from the horse's mouth, like get the information straight from the person that it's happening to. And so I think it's a really interesting like time for media for sure. But obviously that tied in with what's happening in Europe in terms of the incredible milestones that these companies are hitting quicker and larger, it just becomes this, I think, like a pressure cooker of incredible opportunity. So it's very interesting.
And connected to that, like, sorry, I just have to follow on because this is actually something that I care about a lot, obviously, because we built ETN. There's part of that conversation that no one really talks about too much, and one like on the US Europe like tech debate back and forth around like ecosystem, industry, culture, whatever you want to like pick your parameter that you'd measure that off. But there's a huge thing that gets constantly overlooked, and it is the media ecosystem supporting that that industry. It's like our media ecosystem is vastly different to the American media ecosystem in terms of like what they cover, the pace that they cover it, the depth that they cover it in. Like FT do a really good job, to be fair, and they're doing a lot better.
Yeah. And then we had the actual Springer CEO on, and he was incredible. Made me so bullish on what they're building, and the we only had him for 15 minutes, and he probably only talked for maybe 3 minutes about the Telegraph and what they've just done, and the plan for them. Obviously, just acquired it for just under £600 million. It's like, that's exactly how you do it, and they're doing an incredible job, which is really exciting.
Yeah, they're doing a good job. I'm sorry, we're so over. We're so long. Sorry, go.
I think one thing I was going to say on what you were saying was, you were saying like you got to have personality. It's not just facts, right? And what was the conversation going on recently that it's a bit crazy that like the AI models have solved all math, and what happens to mathematicians' jobs, and like how to kind of think about that. And I think that there's like a broader like lesson or idea there, which is like I think facts have basically been solved, and everything else hasn't. Whatever that means, figuring out what's in that everything, whether it's for a mathematician or somebody who's in media or what have you, I feel like that's kind of the new frontier, basically. The facts are or will be solved soon, and if so, what's the rest of it, and how do we kind of figure that out and ultimately become some sort of game, right? Because we're humans and we're playing games, but it's like figuring out what are those games and what are we trying to achieve there.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Until someone kind of cracks it, like it's just discourse flying around all the time.
It's the unmeasurable frontier.
It is.
There's like the
how do you put a metric on that? You can't.
Creative epicenter of, which will become the new epicenter, potentially.
I called it the unmodelable edge.
Nice. Okay. I like
it.
edge instead of frontier as well.
Terms.
It's sharper.
This is good.
This is a shout out to John Coogan, always be coining. That's Coogan's law. So.
I forgot.
I love that. That's so good. Anu, you've been amazing. We've really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks so much for spending the time and for running over with us. We're fascinated. We would love to have you back.
We'll do it again, and congrats on everything so far. I'll chat to you soon.
I appreciate it.
Have a good
See
one.
you soon.
Ciao.
Alex will be in touch.
There's Anu. Alex, huge smile on his face from getting the shout out from Anu back there. There'll be a 3-second delay in his response.
He'll be like,
just saying you had a big smile on your face after the Anu shout out, which is awesome.
11 Labs AI that communicates at a human level across every channel and modality to deploy conversational agents across every customer interaction and creating on-brand content at scale. Go to 11labs.io.
Someone's getting in the heli. The next guest will be here shortly. Just sort of having some fun with the soundboard right there. That was a really great conversation. Wow, really.
Was that half an hour?
Really enjoyed that. That was 30 minutes. Yeah. That flew by. Absolutely flew by.
Well, when it was like, we're running over, I was like, we've been in this conversation for like 5 minutes.
No, that was for Dom, I thought.
No. Well, yeah, both. I mean, both were great conversations, but when you were like, do you mind if I ask another question? I was like, what?
Oh, yeah. It went super quick. We're getting word in that we have our next guest coming into the show. So let's bring them up.
This is a big announcement here.
Surprise guest. Hello, sir. Pablo, how's it going?
Good morning, good afternoon. How's it going?
Yeah, really well, dude.
We're great.
Welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here. I know we've been trying to do something for ages, so really awesome that we could make this happen.
No, very excited. Excited to share some big news and talk a little bit about AI and everything else.
Let's get into it.
Share the big news.
What have we got?
Big news is we're announcing our 150 million Series C, 1.2 billion valuation.
Let's go. Here we go.
Okay.
The lights are going off. It's crazy. It's crazy in the studio. Everyone's super excited.
Wait, okay. Break it down for us. Why the funding? Why now? What's the plan here with the capital? How are things at HappyRobot? Give us a temperature check as well.
Super. So ultimately at HappyRobot, we help enterprises put agents to work in complex environments. We work with telcos, utilities, supply chain, and financial services companies, enterprises really. And we started 2 years ago, really very focused on one segment of the supply chain industry. And that really framed and shaped the way our product looks like today. that really led us to then realize that that product we built could serve those other industries. So now we're almost like, hold on a minute, we have to go all in. There's a bunch of money, continue growing. We've grown 5x since our Series B, which we raised just last year. I mean, our first sale was really April 2024, pretty much. So it's a couple years, really a lot of work, but excited to keep at it.
Yeah. Okay, and talk to us about so this capital, a huge amount of capital. So congratulations on that. What does it mean now for the future of HappyRobot? You said you've almost like realized the opportunity and how big this thing can be. What is how are you going to deploy the capital to go and get that opportunity and succeed?
So for us, go-to-market and deployments is key. Obviously, we're going to continue deploying better and better products or building better and better products.
Nice.
But what we've come to realize is that the enterprise game is all about trust and about deploying, in this case, AI really well. And you need the smartest humans that can both navigate the politics and the nuance of these huge enterprises. We're talking about folks that include DHL, Kuehne+Nagel, Naturgy, Repsol, Uber. Those are huge enterprises with a lot of intricacies where those smart humans need to navigate those politics, but also know how to deploy these platform that we've built. Ultimately, it's a product that you need to deploy and build on top of. So that is really a lot of what we're doing, that go-to-market plus deployments functions, which, by the way, the deployment function includes forward deployed engineers and deployment strategists, is our best go-to-market lever. And people maybe have different opinions about the FD role. For us, it's such a huge lever to grow more.
Yeah. Okay, talk to us about that. What does the adoption look like, and why are FDEs the kind of poison for you guys, the good thing?
The interesting thing here is we are all learning as we go in this AI area, and why you need smart people on site next to the operators and the execs and being able to play at those two games. That is how you build the best product. We say that our best users are our own forward deployed engineers. Mm-hmm. They are shaping faster than anyone else could, than any customer could, the product. They're shaping that product every day by going on site to one of those folks like our DHL friends, going on site to Singapore, to Australia, to Brazil, and literally sitting next to the operators to understand, these agents should handle the back and forth over email better, or the interruptions for our voice agent, which we've built our own proprietary voice agent, has to improve. So then we give feedback the next day to the research team to fix it.
Really interesting. I'd love to ask, the conversations with these enterprise companies. You mentioned some, enormous businesses. What are they trying? Where are they trying to get to? I'm sure you're probably speaking to a number of executives at these large enterprise companies. What's the main thing that they're struggling with? What seems to be the thing that keeps coming up that they need solved immediately?
Where we help the most is really on everything operational, everything that really engages or involves a lot of communication. From customer service to sales to back office to finance and payment collections. We almost build a context layer that is really supporting the work the agents are doing across the functions. So those agents that are doing maybe payment collections and customer support and sales, they all share that same context, really that unified context layer. And what those execs really want to do is just not have 40 different point solutions, but rather have a platform where they can kind of build consistent agents throughout the house. This is really what's top of mind now. 2 years ago, it was let's try out whatever AI we can, anywhere, everywhere. We'll just tap into 40 different AI companies. Now it's holy shit, I actually have too many partners or vendors. I need to solidify on a few partners. And this is really what we're seeing and what we strive to be, that partner for the AI transformation these execs want to drive.
Do you feel like in the enterprise the way that kind of work is shifting and how these enterprises are structured? Do you feel like the overall structure will be one company OS, and that's the kind of big bet that you guys are making, and there'll be a bunch of agents working, but there'll be one singular kind of OS for every part of that enterprise. Is that right?
That is precisely right. I mean, we want to be that layer. Obviously, I'm not naive enough to think that we are going to be the only AI partner a company like the ones we mentioned before is going to use. but we do want to be that interoperable platform where for the use cases where we shine, these highly complex, communication heavy, a lot of coordination between different agents type of use cases, we want to be that partner for them. So yes, we'd love to be that single AI partner for every one of our customers. We do acknowledge we need to be highly interoperable. And that actually is part of our own product. We are interoperable in how we communicate with other systems, but also as an orchestration platform, we help or let our customers use different solutions or different LLMs. Let's use LLMs for simplicity. We are not opinionated on every single part of the agent building process. You might want to use one model here, one LLM here, another LLM provider there. We have a lot of experimentation. Experiments basically let you test out what LLM is best for every use case. And this is the value we bring to them, really, that orchestration, that coordination.
Really cool. Can you maybe explain to us, like, connected to that then, what's the opportunity size here? Is there something like logistics and AI and sort of this transformative, the transformative like area of this? I'm sure these contracts are like absolutely huge. Would love to know, are people maybe underestimating this specific revolution in this vertical? Like, how big can this opportunity be for HappyRobot?
So for us, the broader vertical right now is almost the real economy. That messy type of industries where you have a lot of coordination between agents. Like logistics was the perfect example where we could build a really robust product that really, again, shaped how our product looks like today. First of all, what is even logistics? Right? Like we say logistics and it's actually part of a broader supply chain. You can say logistics and you can mean logistics coordinators. What about the carriers? We work with a lot of ocean carriers, air cargo operators. We work with the shippers as well, companies that are actually trying to move the thing and then they go to the logistics operators. I could go on and on about the supply chain. The supply chain really shaped how we handle that complex work. And now again, we're applying those learnings in the telco space. Deutsche Telekom and Orange are part of our round as strategic partners, really, and investors.
Really cool.
We're working with financial services. Bank Inter, one of the largest European banks, is part of the round as well. We're working with many insurance companies now across LATAM and Europe. We're working with the utility space, the energy space. Repsol is a 50-60 billion revenue company, really moving the oil and gas industry across or with other partners. Naturgy is one of the largest utility companies in LATAM and Europe. This is really the real economy that we see ourselves helping the most.
Yeah. Well, how fast has this journey been? You mentioned like the first sale was like August last year, or August 2024 maybe?
April 2024.
April 24. So what was the decision? Like, when did you see this opportunity and you're like, I have to go and solve that? Like, what was the origins of HappyRobot?
So for the first year and a half, we were heads down solving for a first few set of niches. We started with the freight broker, which if people don't know what a freight broker is, it's just a logistics intermediary. We started with freight brokers. Today we serve 9 of the top 10 freight brokers in the US and many more. We then expanded to other niches like freight forwarding, like Kuehne + Nagel, one of the largest freight forwarders in the world, or DHL, one of their divisions, that's that forwarding piece. Then we realized we could also serve, again, those other niches like ocean carriers. Little by little, we were seeing how our platform could serve more and more folks. Our platform really has nothing that would say, or that would scream to you, oh, this is like logistics specific, or, this is freight forwarding specific. It's actually an enterprise AI platform. So around last year, December, we started getting some feedback from other customers in other industries, like, hey, we've heard great things from DHL. Could we also use you guys? We're like, oh yeah, hell yeah! Like let's do that. And one thing led to the other, and today we find ourselves serving some of the largest enterprises in those other industries. So
sorry.
From you definitely have a lot of insight into like the way that enterprises are thinking about AI and kind of we've kind of gone through that token maxing type thing now into like really thinking about costs and thinking about how like to actually show that you are driving the needle forwards in terms of revenue or kind of like whatever benchmark that these enterprises are looking for. What's the kind of give us a temperature check on how these enterprises are thinking now about the adoption of AI into their company, and what they're actually spending the tokens on. What's the kind of thing that they feel like is going to be really like driving the needle forward for them?
Mm-hmm. Let's look at the execs on one end and at the product managers who are like driving the transformation every day on the other end.
Yeah, nice.
The execs don't give a shit about the tokens. Like they just want their P&L.
Get it in there, nice.
They just want to solve those problems, right? So you gotta be nimble enough to navigate those two conversations, right? Obviously, the PM at Company X will be obsessed around efficiency on the actual token spend or workflow, and we partner really well with those folks because the platform is super transparent. In our case, you see exactly where you're kind of spending the most money. We don't hide any prompts. It's really all your IP. Like whatever you build on HappyRobot is really your IP. We're a little bit different from other folks in the more traditional customer support kind of point solution type of worlds or other spaces. So for us, it's about that interoperable, transparent platform.
Yeah.
Now, again, going back to those execs, which is ultimately who signs the contract, we gotta be sure as well to speak that business transformation, to speak ROI. So ultimately, they're gonna think they will want to think about a 5x ROI. Typically, that's what I've seen like resonate. They want to see like 5x ROI at the very least, because if not, they can almost like build it internally. Now they do acknowledge, specifically the bigger the enterprise, they do acknowledge the complexity of navigating their own internal politics.
Yeah.
So where we shine the best actually is with larger enterprises. We've played or served some smaller mid-market companies in different industries, and what we've come to realize is we're not the best partner for them because they're relatively scrappy. They want to build themselves. They don't care about evals. They don't care about experimentation of like A/B testing. They don't care about adversarial agents. They don't really do that.
There we go.
They just want to like get their thing done and like move on to the next one.
Sure.
On the contrary, you have like these humongous enterprises are like obsessed around governance, about auditability, everything that all of these AI regulation is kind of pushing now. Is like, do you know we've already been working towards that, Mr. AI regulator, for the past 2 years? Like that's literally what the enterprise wants. So like whenever we talk about EU regulations or all things like that, it's like perfect. I mean, it's exactly what we've been building towards, which is interesting.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
So
5x ROI is interesting.
Yeah. It kind of help with the enterprise deals and maybe like the framework and stuff. Are you surprised at like how sort of aware and relatively frontier these execs are that you're dealing with, or are they maybe? Is there still like a time gap between maybe you're doing some enablement as well on the capabilities of things, or where are they at on that AI pilling?
I think they're getting to around, let's say, we started at 0 2 years ago. Like people were like, AI, I'm like, I don't know, like what is even, what they maybe hadn't even used ChatGPT that much at the time, like in 2023, 2024. Now it's like, hey, I know I've seen different solutions. So they're pretty well informed now. They've seen a bunch of different solutions. They've kind of tried internal builds. We have a customer that evaluated 30 partners. This is actually public information. Naturgy, one of our customers in the utility space, they evaluated 30 people and they tried an internal build. Talk about being AI savvy and prepared. And they did it because they wanted to see how hard it was to build internally. Isn't that interesting? They wanted to see how painful it was to build internally. And obviously they got to something decent. They were their words, but like they wanted best for their own customers.
Yeah.
So I would say like we've gotten really to the top of the curve now, on like AI literacy, I guess, with the execs.
Really cool, really fascinating. We are at time. Congratulations on the news. We know you guys are going to go out and crush it. I'm glad that we could finally do this, and you've probably got a million other things to be doing today, so we'll let you go. But it was so good to catch up.
Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Bye. Everyone, Pablo. Ciao.
Good stuff. See you soon.
What a ledge.
What's a legend? Airwallex, leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. Everyone in the studio loves Airwallex. They love it. And they love all of our partners, obviously. But
Had word. Our last guest of the day has to go and increase shareholder value, so we are going to reorganize that conversation at another time. But we can take you to the rest of the bangers of the day. There are just a few more that we can cover here.
Let's cover the BMW Spider-Man ad. Now, this rocked the timeline. Monot posted a tweet. When was it? At the early hours of, actually,
3.4 mil.
12:17 a.m. London time. Seems crazy. The movie Spider-Man Brand New Day paid. Let me read it. Sorry. The movie Spider-Man Brand New Day paid BMW to take over the display of every BMW made after 2020. When you start a BMW, it shows you an ad for Spider-Man. Really cheapens BMW IMO. So he actually has a BMW. Let's just.
This surprise Spider-Man just dropped into your Beamer.
In your Beamer?
Is this him? Is this she?
Must be, yeah. Can you not drive before this? Do you have to watch the ad?
No, sure not.
You better not have to watch the ad. That's so annoying.
No, not sure. You can probably drive without.
Okay.
Surely.
Okay, so you.
That's crazy. What happens if I scan that QR code? Nice. I scan the QR code and I can build the BMW iX3. The hero for a new era. Spider-Man Brand New Day. I thought it was going to give me like tickets or something.
Yeah, that seems kind of pointless. How much do you reckon that deal was?
I mean, multiple millions, without a doubt.
I'd go 20 minimum. 20 mil minimum.
Why would they do that? But like, it's not. Who's the target audience for that? For the new Spider-Mans, the target audience is surely a younger.
The Beamer drivers.
But that's fair actually, because I guess it would be those who fell in love with original Spider-Man carrying that forward who would be of driving age. To be fair, that makes sense.
But I think Cheem's the brand. I think if maybe if it's an opt-in, it's obviously not as bad, but still not great.
If I could get good ads,
I don't want ads in my car.
I'd be fine with ads in my car if they were good ads.
I'd be fine with 11 Labs ads, Airwallex ads, Polymarket ads, Framer ads would be great.
Yeah, Hex ads are good.
BVNK ads are really good.
Yeah, I'd be fine with those type of ads in my car. Want to pull up this one?
Less of you ads, great ads. They'd be good.
That rocked out. This is Ken Watana at Ken Watana. He said, "Are there more A16Z partners or Corgi GTM girlies?" And Ken's been dropping some bangers on the timeline recently. I don't think I have this one to hand, but I know from memory that Ken recently tweeted, which seems to be an evolution of his previous tweet. I feel like I discover a new A16Z partner every day.
And they always have like around 15 to 45,000 followers, and then obviously it jumps up.
Yeah, sometimes you find like one.
You don't
pops
find
up.
any A16Z partner with less than like 10,000.
No, so I have. I found
the rare breeds.
Yeah. It's like he had like 3K when I found him, and I was like,
you're an early adopter.
Yeah, I was like, why doesn't this guy have like 1 million followers? Because they all just seem to have 1 million followers, which is crazy. But no, I thought this was really good from Ken.
I want to say that's banger of the day.
It was actually proven that it was the A16Z has 96 partners. I think
that's good.
But speaking of banger of the day, you're gonna go through this one first actually, because I find this one.
We can go through this one. Olivia Moore. Someone brought a billboard in SF to advertise a new LLM. But the LLM is a real guy answering every message, including image gen requests. hand draws. He's been talking to thousands of people per day. Oh my God. And had to pause new usage due to overwhelming demand.
People want
that is hilarious.
People want authenticity. People want
chatjb.org. the leading chat interface powered by AI. And then I think let's just like, what does that say? Something average individual, I think.
There's like 3 words.
No, that average individual, something individual.
Wow, they did a billboard as well. That's really. That must be like a top of funnel for something else, maybe.
I would expect.
It's kind of like Builder AI, and they got
that
done
great
for,
product. Great product.
And then banger of the day itself. It's not the most tech-related thing. You know, we have it here. It's from Ken. It's from Ken Watana. Every day I discover a new A16Z investment partner. I'm gonna have to give it banger of the day for today. He's done such a good job with that one.
Ken, I've just realised I don't follow you, and you follow me. So following you back right now, Ken Watana. Congrats.
For the record, as we said, there are 96 A16Z partners.
Yeah, you got to catch them all.
You have to catch them all. If you can find them all and follow them on X, then apparently good things happen.
Indeed. I think we can wrap up there.
Yeah, I think
that's it.
We're good.
We will. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow. We will be right back. Ciao.
Cheers, guys.